Hey, what's up my dudes? Devayorn here with another Baldur's Gate guide. In this video, we're going to be talking about BG1 companions. We're going to talk about every single companion in the game in alphabetical order from start to finish. We're also going to talk about the Enhanced Edition companions at the very end, and I'll do my best to also highlight the differences between the original Baldur's Gate 1 and the Enhanced Edition, because there are some changes specifically for the companions and their innate spells and abilities, as well as some of their stats. For the spellcasters, I'll talk about what spells I personally like to take and what I recommend you take and use. For the fighters and thieves, etc., I'll also talk about what proficiencies I like to put their points into and what equipment I like to give them, and again, in order to maximize, in my opinion, their efficiency. The same caveats apply, just like our spell guide videos. These videos are guided to those in mind who are playing no reload. So if the main character dies, it's game over. The companions die permanently. You just keep going, no resing, saving, reloading, that sort of thing. We play on insane difficulty with double damage turned on max settings of Sword Coast stratagems. We also have for Baldur's Gate 2 a couple other mods like Ascension, etc., but obviously none of that is going to be applying to Baldur's Gate 1. Aside from SCS, and now we are currently using rogue rebalancing and a couple components of tweaks to make the content a little bit more difficult and more challenging, which makes the game, in my opinion, a lot more fun. So as I said before, we're going to go in alphabetical order here, and let's go and get started with Ajantis. And again, like I said, this guide is set in mind for those who are playing insane SCS, no reload, but a lot of this will apply to your modded core rules games as well. Certain things are just exaggerated, and I'll do my best to highlight those as we come to them. So, very first character we have here is Ajantis. Ajantis is a paladin. I currently have him, let me go and pull up my little tier list here. I believe I have him at A tier. Ajantis is indeed A tier, and there's a couple reasons for that. Let's just go over his stats real quick. He has 17 strength, which is perfectly decent. That's actually more than most companions in the game. His dexterity is very low at 13, so he's getting no bonuses there. He has a constitution of 16, so he'll get a slight hit point bonus per level. He has 12 int and 13 wisdom. Both of these scores are completely irrelevant in Baldur's Gate 1, unless you're playing a cleric or druid. And he also has 17 charisma. Now, a couple of these scores are actually somewhat important. The 17 charisma is actually massive. He is tied, I believe, with Safana for the highest charisma of any companion in Baldur's Gate 1. Almost every single dialogue option in this game, with very few exceptions involving a quest giver and a quest turn-in, will actually have a hidden check in the background based on your charisma and your reputation. Those two modifiers will go into it. Basically, what I always like to say is that if you have 18 charisma and are above 8 rep, you will get the good reward. If you have less than 8 rep and less than 18 charisma, you will get the bad reward for a quest. So what this means is if you take Ajantis and you give him the Dryad Cloak, the Nymph Cloak that gives him an extra 2 charisma, he now has 19 charisma. If you make him the party leader, not only will you get almost the max discount from stores, but you will be almost guaranteed to get the good reward from quests. And what I mean by that is, play this game with very high rep and very high charisma, and then play this game with 5 rep and low charisma, and you will notice an extraordinary amount of differences. You're talking to the little girl whose cat drowns in the waterfall. You have high charisma, high rep. She reses the cat. You get a reputation point. You get a good amount of XP. You get a powerful scroll if you have low charisma and low rep. The cat's gone forever. She cries. She gives you a few gold coins, and you feel depressed and terrible afterwards. If you talk to the halfling or gnome, whatever they are, and the friendly arm in about the spider infestation, if you have high charisma, he will literally give you 6 antidote potions to help you fight the spiders. If you don't have high charisma, he's not going to give you shit. And there is pretty much every quest is like that, where you'll get a really nice reward for having high charisma and rep versus a really crappy reward if you're ugly and stupid. There are some NPCs who won't join you at all if you're ugly and have low rep. Viconia, for example, if you are uncharismatic, if you save her, she'll say, thanks, see you later, I got things to do, my guy. And she'll just bail on you right then and there. There are a lot of dialogue checks. Actually, I wouldn't say a lot. There are a couple dialogue checks that are amusing, like in Baldur's Gate 2. If you attack Furcrag with Edwin in your party and you have low charisma, he just straight up drops party and leaves. Because he's like, fuck this shit, I'm out, dude. I'm not gonna die fighting a dragon with you. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you, and I can't pick you up because I'm Edwin. And I have like 10 fucking strength. So charisma makes a lot more of a difference than people think. It's often considered a dump stat in RPGs. In Baldur's Gate 1, you will notice a big difference. So that is nice. His strength score is pretty much whatever. He'll get a little bit of extra Thaco, a little bit of extra damage from having 17 strength over like 15. Doesn't really matter. The dexterity, again, is unimportant as long as you're not having multiple frontliners with low dex, because you can get the brawling gloves so early in this game, over down in Null Encampment. When I'm playing Ajantis, I will typically go and give him the full plate for good AC, give him Pelin Shield or another good shield, and if possible, Albruen, Dorn Sword is exceptionally good on him because he actually comes with proficiency points in Bastard Sword, Two-Handed Sword, and Longbow. And this is kind of a shame because Bastard Swords in Baldur's Gate 1 are pretty fucking terrible. If you're not playing the Enhanced Edition especially, Albruen is a very powerful sword you get from Dorn's Quest, which we'll talk about in just a second here. If you aren't playing the Enhanced Edition and you're playing the original Baldur's Gate, I believe he actually comes with 2 points in the Large Sword. And so you're given a lot more flexibility. You can use Longsword, Two-Handed Sword, Bastard Sword, they're all the same. But the Enhanced Edition, it's very specific here. Now, you can either go one of two ways. You can either go and put some points into Two-Handed Sword, which I personally don't recommend, because if I'm using Ajantis at all, I'm using him as a tank. And he's not the best tank in the world. There are a couple tanks that are better, but Ajantis is not going to show up in my party to be an archer. That is a really last-ditch effort kind of thing. Ajantis, I typically pick up and use him as a tank. And if, like I said, you're not going to use the Albruen sword, I would recommend just putting 2 points in Longsword. As soon as you get Ajantis, put his 2 points in Longsword. If you have 32,000 XP, he will be very close to getting his second proficiency point. You'll be able to put 1 in Longsword right away, so he's not unspecialized, and you'll get the second point very quickly afterwards to have 2 points, giving him a little bit of Thaco and damage boost. And then you can use Varskona basically until the end of the game. Scimitar is also quite viable, just because if you kill Drizzt, he drops 2 very nice scimitars. Twinkle can actually be used by Ajantis because he's lawful good, which is very nice. But as I was saying a minute ago, Dorn's sword is by far the best weapon he could possibly use. However, Ajantis has problems with pretty much every evil NPC in the game. He will start shit with them almost immediately, and they will come to blows unless you do something about that. I believe Xan has a special power to stop people from fighting, so if he's in the party, he'll talk him down, but otherwise Ajantis is just going to go hard on everybody. His intellect score is 12, and this seems high because he acts like a complete moron. He will charge into any situation like an idiot who will say really stupid things and piss off people left and right, and that's just, typical Paladin players, right? Typical Paladin gamers. As I was saying before, when I go to pick up Ajantis, it's because Khalid is dead, it's because Kagain is dead, and I need somebody to tank. That's really the only reason you'd ever pick this character up. If you're playing the original Baldur's Gate, protection from evil actually stacks, and so you're able to cast that on yourself over and over again, giving you a very high AC. So in the original Baldur's Gate, Ajantis is actually quite decent, but on double damage, insane difficulty, he's okay. He's not really all that amazing. He's situationally, perfectly acceptable as a tank. You can kind of slot him into a couple different parties. If you want to roleplay as a good party, he'll do perfectly fine. You can make him an archer if you already have somebody else tanking. If you want to have Khalid tank instead, because Khalid is definitely a better tank, but he does the job just fine. If I was going to pick up a tank, I would be Kagain first, then Khalid second, and then Ajantis is third on the list, and then pretty much everyone after that is kind of terrible, to be honest. So for that reason, and all the reasons we mentioned before, I'm going to go ahead and keep Ajantis at A tier, because situationally he is quite good. He's not going to fit into every party, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with him whatsoever. If you want to play with Ajantis and you're not running with a bunch of evil companions, you can do so, and you'll be able to find a role for him without any issues whatsoever. All right, up next we have Branwen, who is a Priest of Tempest. This actually gets changed quite a bit in the Enhanced Edition. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let's go over her stats. She has 13 Strength, which actually really sucks because you can't wear full plate on her. You can, of course, give her the Onkeg plate armor, which is the same AC as full plate base, but worse modifiers. And there are ways to get around that. You can give her a strength boosting equipment. You can have a strength casting spell, which will allow her to put the full plate on and keep the full plate on even though the strength spell goes off. I don't like to do that because I find that cheesy, but you know, you do you. Whatever makes you happy. Her dex is quite decent, 16. It's fairly good. You'll get an extra 2 AC bonus there. Constitution is 15, so she is going to be missing 1 HP per level, which is tragic. 9 Int is completely whatever. Int has no effect on this game in any way, shape, or form in Baldur's Gate 1 for non-arcane casters, and even for arcane casters, it's pretty whatever. 16 Wisdom, so she'll get a very small bonus to low-level cleric spells, and 13 Charisma. Charisma, again, if it's not high, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really change anything whatsoever. Now, Branwen actually has, in the original Baldur's Gate, a Spiritual Hammer ability. This ability would last for quite a decent amount of time, if I remember correctly, and it's the exact same as the namesake spell. What it does is it will summon a hammer that does a tiny bit of extra damage based on what level the cleric is. Should be able to right click in here, yeah. Up to +3 and +3 damage for a level 13th caster. Obviously you're not going to get that high, but you can expect to give it a small bonus over a regular Warhammer. This is completely fucking useless because Warhammers in this game already don't do shit for damage. You don't get additional proficiencies for having it, and if you want to use a Warhammer, you can get a +2 Warhammer Ashadina very, very easily in the original Baldur's Gate. If you're playing SCS Enhanced Edition, Basilius is a lot more nasty, but even then, like, I don't want to send Branwen onto the front line. She's got 15 Constitution. She's a cleric. She's going to die in 2 fucking seconds. I mean, maybe if you have a very, very fighter-heavy front line, you can go and make use of her in that particular way. Personally, I like to just keep her in the back line as a caster. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Give her a sling, have her start slinging shit down, and just use her as a healer, and, you know, your typical cleric stuff. When I play clerics in Baldur's Gate 1, the spells I care about most, I will always take 2 commands, I will always take 1 remove fear, and I'll take 2 cure light wounds. For level 1, this is golden for me. Command is insanely busted. We've talked about it at length in the spell guide series. For level 2, take a silence, 2 hold persons, 1 chant, or 1 cure. And for level 3, you do remove paralysis, prayer, and exaltation. Those are the big 3. For level 4, once you get there, recitation, protection from evil, and then you're not going to get any more spells, right? That's just the way it is. In Baldur's Gate 1, you don't get level 5 spells unless you're playing a pure druid, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is basically how I like to play my clerics. They are the characters that are going to be doing very light healing, so when you rest, everybody will actually have hit points, and they're going to be focused on crowd control on the enemies. Command is insanely good, hold person in BG1's insanely good, silence has a -5 penalty, very, very, very strong stuff. And again, for level 3, it's all about removing CC, remove paralysis, exaltation, remove chaos, stuff like that. That's personally how I like to play my clerics. If you want to be more aggressive, and you want to take things like draw upon a holy might, you absolutely can. I personally don't recommend it on Branwen. If I was going to be playing with an aggressive cleric, it would probably be Yeslick. But for what she does, or should I say, for how I use her, Branwen is perfectly decent as a cleric. I do think she's worse than Viconia. Viconia has an enormous amount of magic resistance and, in my opinion, better stats across the board. Obviously, with some exceptions we'll talk about when we get to her. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Branwen. Oh, I forgot to say where the companions are. I should apologize for that. Ajantis you can find north of the Friendly Arm Inn on the road with the Onkegs. Branwen you can find in Nashkel Carnival. She is petrified. You go and hit her with a scroll of petrific stone to flesh. She will come back to human, and then you can talk to her and have her join your party. She's perfectly decent. I have her listed here as A tier. I personally would just always take Vicky over Branwen, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with Branwen. She does also have, for a personal quest, to go and kill Tranzig. This was almost scripted properly in the original game, but wasn't. The Enhanced Edition adds a little bit of dialogue there, but nothing really too special. I believe the NPC project, if you're playing with that, adds a little bit of more dialogue, and I think she gets an item there, if you're interested, but it's pretty whatever. I pretty much never take Branwen. I pretty much never take Ajantis. There are absolutely better companions, but if you want to take them, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Up next is Alora, before I go wildly out of alphabetical order here. Alora is one of my favorite companions. I have her listed at A tier for one reason and one reason only, and that's the fact that you can't get her until Baldur's Gate City, which is extremely brutal. If you're playing with Tweaks, or NPC project, or one of the other million mods that does so, you have the option to actually move her somewhere else, to like Gullikin, for example, is how I can get her in my version. And this makes Alora not only viable, but very fun to play with. Alora is a halfling thief. In my opinion, halflings are the best thieves in Baldur's Gate 1. The bonuses they get are exceptionally good compared to the other races. Her stat score is pretty trash, 8 strength, 19 dex is great, 12 con, 14 int, 7 wisdom, 10 charisma. These 3 stats are basically irrelevant for 90% of the characters, so that's whatever. Her low con means her HP is shit, her low strength means her damage is shit. She has 19 dex, which is great for thieving abilities and ranging, but even though her strength is crap, I still love playing Alora as a backstabber. And that's because she has this foot here. This is the Lucky Rabbit's Foot, an Alora-only item. In the original Baldur's Gate, this didn't give you anything that you see right here. It was just a cute little item. In the Enhanced Edition, the Rabbit's Foot is quite possibly the strongest item in Baldur's Gate 1. I take it back. It is the best item in Baldur's Gate 1, period. I would put it above the Cloak of Balduran. It's insane. So this gives her 2 AC, 2 to all saves, 10% to all fucking thieving abilities, and 2 luck. And luck is quite possibly the most busted stat in the game. This means anytime she takes damage, she's going to take less, and anytime she does a roll for damage, she's going to do more, for the most part. So what I mean by this, if Alora goes and backstabs with, for example, the short sword of backstabbing, right? Short sword of backstabbing is 1d6 plus 3, higher bonus if you're using the rogue rebalancing mod. If Alora rolls a 6, she'll just do max damage. Luck won't do anything. If Alora rolls a 4, the plus 2 luck is going to maximize that damage, so it's the same as she did max. If Alora rolls a 1 for damage, she'll do 3 minimum, which is then multiplied by her backstab multiplier, plus the additional damage that's being done because the weapon's enchanted. You get the picture. Luck is just so good when it comes to actually dealing damage in this game for a fighter, and it's so good defensively as well that her low con is like, it's something you can overlook, honestly, because she'll be taking less damage from pretty much everything in the game. Personally, when I play Alora, the first thing I want to do is get her some strength boosting equipment. I would love to either get her the belt from Rasaad's quest or something like that in order to actually really up her level of strength, which is going to really up her backstabs because it's going to increase her THAC0, and the extra damage is still absolutely noticeable and very, very nice. Obviously, because she's a thief, she can't be popping strength pots, aside from the crappy 18 strength pot, which is still obviously fine, but you really want to get her higher than that anyways, through items. Because she is a halfling, she gets a bonus to stealth, so you'll notice that she comes with massive amounts of open lock and pickpockets, and that's normal because you're supposed to get this character in Baldur's Gate City. But if you do recruit her in Gullikin, her stats are going to be obviously a little bit slightly different. I will typically go and just dump all her points into stealth and just use her as a really fun backstabber. I've had games where Alora has one-shot to Vaorn, Cloakwood Mines. I've also had games where she's failed to do so. But Alora can be really, 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 really strong if you use her properly. However, again, if you're playing without mods, if Alora's stuck in Baldur's Gate City, there's really no reason to ever take her. By the time you get to Baldur's Gate City, the XP difference between your party and any prospective companion is a chasm. It is a canyon. It is a gulf that is really unpassable, to be honest. And it's not completely the end of the world. It's not like you can't pick them up. I mean, you could do whatever the hell you want. But it is extremely noticeable, and it's extremely unfortunate Because the Baldur's Gate City companions are, in my opinion, some of the most fun and interesting companions in the game. So, Alora, Tiax, super fun, 10 out of 10 companions. Highly recommend playing with them at least once. I strongly recommend you get a mod that moves Alora because she's really fun to play with. She is super cheerful and perky. I don't believe she has any conflicts with any companion in the game, which is saying something. Branwen is, I believe, the same. I don't believe Branwen actually has conflicts with anybody in the game. I forgot to mention conflicts. I'm so sorry. It's been a long morning. It's been a hell of a day. But, yeah. Recommend Alora. I like her. She's a lot of fun. The only reason she's not S tier is, again, because you can't pick her up until Baldur's Gate City, which is really, really unfortunate. But I highly recommend her. Get her a really good sword. Get her some strength boosting equipment. Dump some points into stealth. Get her the Shadow Thief armor, whatever the hell it's called, that boosts hide in shadows. Get her the boots that helps her hide in shadows. Go and hide behind a tree, stealth, and start backstabbing some nerds. Drop them left and right. Super fun to play with. I mean, she's half our emotes on Twitch, right? So, you know, 10 out of 10. But I mean, I'm going to leave her at A tier, not S tier, just because, again, you can't get her till Baldur's Gate City without mods. Up next, we have Coran. Coran is obviously S tier, amazingly strong companion. He is a elven fighter thief with 14 strength, 20 dex, 12 con, 14 int, 9 wisdom, and 16 charisma. As you can see, he has 20 dex, and that plus him being a fighter thief basically makes him one of the best companions in Baldur's Gate 1. Not only that, he's an elf on top of it, so he's going to get additional bonuses for using bows and longswords, although why the hell would you ever have him use a longsword when he's got 20 dex? I believe he actually comes with 3 points into longbows, correct. So this is also impossible. You can't make a character with 20 dex, you can't make a fighter thief multi with 3 points in longbows, but Coran does because that's just the way he is. I don't know. That's just how cool he is. I also wondered why he's an elf, but he doesn't have pointy ears. But regardless, very, very strong companion. When I'm using Coran, I mean, I would say I've taken Coran in probably, if I've played 100 games of Baldur's Gate 1, Coran's been in 90 of those games. He's just a perfectly serviceable thief. He can do all your thieving duties, although he does need a little bit of XP because you don't pick him up until the first area of Cloakwood, which is annoying. But his range Thaco is second really to none, honestly. You can get Coran to 0 Thaco very, very easily. You give him the bow from the bandit camp, the dead shot. You go and give him some magical arrows, and arrows in Baldur's Gate 1 are just already disgusting, right? Like, the fire arrows do way too much damage. The arrows of detonation are disgustingly overpowered. The dispelling arrows will work on pretty much everything with no save whatsoever. It's just, ranged in BG1 is disgusting. And he has massive, massive bonuses to ranged. Like, there really doesn't need to be anything said about this shit. If you get extra proficiency points, it doesn't matter where you fucking put him. He's already got the best points at longbow. You could give him the shittiest equipment and he's gonna outperform 90% of your party because that's just the way it is. If you wanted to go and turn him into a melee backstab boy, that is totally possible. He actually comes with a fairly decent amount of move silently points. So the shadow armor plus the boots, a couple points invested into move silently and hide in shadows, and he'll be able to backstab quite decently. He already does have 2 points in longsword. Elves do get a bonus to both these things, and he's got a lot of APR. I mean, it's just, I mean, what more do you want me to say? You know what I mean? Like, what more can be said about Coran? Super strong companion, S tier all the way. You can build him into a backstabber. He is the best archer in the game. I mean, that's just all there is to it. 10 out of 10 companion, highly recommended. Up next is Dynaheir. Dynaheir is an invoker, which means she is going to be getting a small bonus to using evocation spells, and she is incapable of using charm spells. In the original Baldur's Gate, she could not use, I believe, charm spells and could not use conjuration spells, which was actually devastatingly bad. Because in the original Baldur's Gate, monster summoning was the best spell in the game, period, bar none. That is no longer the case. She can use those spells now. All she can't use is charm spells, which are actually quite decent in BG1. Charm Person's whatever. Dire Charm is decent. Chaos and Confusion are very, very strong, and she can't use those. The Invoker bonus is really whatever. I have a really weird take on specialist mages. I find that in BG1, it doesn't really fucking matter. And the saving throw bonus and penalty thing is, because it's hidden, it's really hard to see how much that actually affects things, if you know what I mean. So the fact that you actually can't see that penalty coming into play more often than not means you don't know just how much that penalty is actually affecting your offensive spells. For example, if I take Dynaheir and I cast a fireball, how often is that spell penalty actually causing the spell to do extra damage or hit when it wouldn't normally hit? You know what I mean? It's tough to say. It's tough to say. There's definitely worse specialist mages. There's definitely some really shittier ones than Invoker. There are ones that stop you from using Stone Skin. There are ones that stop you from being able to use Time Stop and Haste. But most of that shit really only matters in Baldur's Gate 2. There's really only BG2 where a specialist mage school losing an entire school's worth of spells is actually really detrimental. What I think of for specialist mages in BG1 is you just get an extra spell per level. And that's basically what I look at her of having. Her special ability is Slow Poison, which is actually quite useful. Poisons, especially on double damage, do an enormous amount of damage. Greater Wyverns, Phase Spiders, pretty much every fucking spider poisons. Ettercap's Poison, there's a couple other enemies that will do it. And having an extra Slow Poison is very, very nice to have. As for her actual stat spread, it's totally whatever. She's a wizard, so her stats really don't matter aside from Dex and Constitution. As you can see, she has 16 Con, so she's getting an extra 2 HP per level, which is quite nice. Int is completely fucking irrelevant because you're going to be using a potion to boost her Int to guarantee she learns Scrolls. Wisdom, Charisma, there's absolutely nothing. Her Dex is low, but again, she's going to be in the backline anyway, and if she's getting targeted by archers, having a couple more AC probably isn't gonna fucking save her until you get her some really good equipment like the boots. If you want to give her the boots and the gloves and a robe with the Archmagi, then sure, she's gonna be fine against archers, but generally speaking, with low HP, double damage turned on, if you get jumped by bandits, you're just gonna fucking die as a wizard, and the dexterity doesn't matter at all. In Baldur's Gate 2, dexterity matters a lot more for mage tanking, but in BG1, it's completely fucking irrelevant. She's gonna die regardless, so who cares? As far as equipment goes, pretty much every mage in this game is going to be played identically as far as equipment is concerned. You're going to want to give them the best robe you can possibly give them, which is going to be a robe of the Archmagi. It's going to put their AC at 5. It's going to give them an extra save and a very small amount of magic resistance. For boots, you're going to want to give them the Boots of Avoidance, the one that gives them 5 bonus versus missile weapons. You're going to want to give them the Cloak from Olgoth's Beard that gives them a bonus versus missile weapons. And then you're going to want to give them a sling so they can contribute ever so slightly in physical damage when you put enemies to sleep with your sleep spell. In BG1, wizards really primarily focus is to not die and to crowd control enemies. In Baldur's Gate 2, wizards do a lot more damage than they do in BG1. In original Baldur's Gate, Fireball, Lightning Bolt are 2 very powerful spells. When you're playing with max HP, Fireball and Lightning Bolt stop being impressive, and especially if you're very low level, spells like Sleep, Color Spray, Hold Person, these are so much more valuable. You cast 1 Sleep on a level 1 wizard, and you can do pretty much anything against low level enemies. Like, for example, the 4 spiders in the room in Baragost. If you're a level 1 wizard and you take Chromatic Orb, those spiders are going to shit on you. If you're a level 1 wizard and you take Grease, the spiders are eventually going to catch up and shit on you. If you take Magic Missile, they're going to shit on you, etc., etc. You take 1 sleep spell, they all go to sleep, and you could beat the shit out of them while they're unconscious. Same thing works for Color Spray. It's just, there's really no reason not to take those spells in BG1. There really isn't, which is kind of a shame. That's just the way it is. So for spells on Dynaheir for level 1, she's going to be using a combination of Sleep and a couple Magic Missiles. Level 2, you're going to be using Web for crowd control, maybe 1 Mirror Image. Level 3, this is where I'll typically take some damage. Some Skull Traps, in her case, Fireball because she's an Invoker, so she'll get the extra save penalty on there. And for level 4, it's going to be just defensive again. Stone Skin, level 5, Cloud Kill, and Chaos. Those are the 2. And pretty much every wizard is going to be built identically with very few exceptions. It doesn't matter if they're a Necromancer, a Transmuter, Abjurer. If you're able to take Sleep for level 1, you're going to use Sleep. If you're able to take Web, you're going to use Web. If you're able to take Fireball, Skull Trap, you're going to use whichever one you can that you're going to get a bonus to. And for level 4, same thing, Stone Skin. Every wizard wants fucking Stone Skin. Level 5, you don't get much level 5 spells, but the ones you do get, you're going to use Cloud Kill and you're going to use Chaos, and that's it. Everything else is just, it's kind of trash, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. BioWare went out of their way to nerf monster summoning, so that's much weaker than it used to be. They've also nerfed the charm spells, although they're still very decent, especially when you're an enchanter. Generally speaking, that's how I like to play wizards. But as always, you can do you, and especially if you're taking multiple wizards, you can change that up. For example, if you're taking Dynaheir and Xan and Xzar because you want 3 wizards in your party, if you want Xzar to use Horror because he gets a bonus to it, go for it. You want Xan to use Dire Charm because he gets a bonus for it, go for it. You can do those things. If I have only 1 wizard in my party, Sleep, Web, Skull Trap, Stone Skin, Chaos. Those are the spells for each level that I would be using. But again, you do whatever makes you happy. Dynaheir will also insist that you go and pick up Minsc as soon as possible and party with them. Dynaheir and Edwin will have conflicts. However, if you pick up Dynaheir first and then talk to Edwin, Edwin will join the party league grudgingly without causing an issue. However, if you have Edwin first and try to pick up Dynaheir, that doesn't work. There'll be problems. You can play with Dynaheir without Minsc, obviously, by killing one or the other. Pretty much every pair in this game can be separated just fine. You kill the other half of the pair, remove their corpse from the party, and they'll never complain again for the rest of the game, and that's just the way it is. So you can absolutely do that if you want to play with Dynaheir. I believe I have Dynaheir at A tier. Let me double check here. Yeah, Dynaheir is A tier. Perfectly acceptable mage. She's a specialist mage, so she's going to get an extra spell per level. Her constitution is perfect, 16, giving her the max HP per level, which is great. That's what you want out of mages. You want them to stay alive for as long as possible, and you want them to have as many spells to cast as possible, and Dynaheir has exactly that. So, good shit. Great companion. Easy to pick up. You can get her Dynaheir very early. She's at the Null Camp at the bottom of one of the pits. And again, the slow poison is also quite nice too. So, A tier, solid companion all around. Alright, and that is going to be it for a Group 1 here. Let's go and move on to our Group 2 companions. Okay. So the first of our Group 2 companions is Edwin. Edwin is an S tier wizard, however. He has everything Dynaheir has, but better. He has 10 strength, 10 dex, which again we talked about why both of those are really pretty much irrelevant. Dex doesn't matter as much for a wizard in Baldur's Gate 1 because if you're getting hit, it's not going to be in melee because only an idiot would be in melee as a wizard, and you're going to be at range, and if you're getting shot by multiple archers, you're going to die in 2 fucking seconds anyways. The extra AC from Dex is not going to save you. 16 con is great. That's exactly what you want as a wizard. This will give them an extra 2 HP per level. Anything higher than 16 does nothing. 18 int, so he's got 1 higher than Dynaheir. This doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form for Baldur's Gate 1, or 2 for that matter. You're still going to be wanting to pop pots to learn scrolls. And 10 wisdom, 10 charisma. Again, this makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. What Edwin gets over Dynaheir, however, is Edwin's amulet, which gives him an extra wizard spell of each level. This is different than in Baldur's Gate 2. His amulet in BG2 gives him extra 2 spells per level, plus his specialization, which gives him 3. And BG1, he's only getting 2 spells per level bonus. 1 for being a specialized wizard, and 1 for having his amulet here. You're going to build him still pretty much identically to what Dynaheir is, like I just said before. You want to go and give him the robe of the Archmagi, you want to give him the boots, the cloak, and you want to give him a sling, and play him basically the exact same. There's no difference in builds for Dynaheir or Edwin. The only difference is that Dynaheir is using a robe of the good Archmagi, while Edwin is using a robe of the evil Archmagi. For spells, I recommend the exact same thing. Sleep, Magic Missile, Web, Mirror Image. In Edwin's case, I would use Skull Trap over Fireball. Skull Trap is a little easier to aim. It's a little easier to land and adjust properly based on not hitting your own party members while still maximizing damage to enemies. Like I said, Dynaheir is an invoker, so she gets a bonus to evocation spells, while Edwin is not, so obviously he's not going to get a bonus there. His conjuration counter school, is divination. So Edwin cannot cast identify, but again, who the hell cares? Every single shopkeeper can identify shit for you. You can always pick up another wizard to do it. You can go and pick up Garrick or Eldoth or somebody else to identify things. Losing detect invisibility actually does suck, There are a couple fights in this game where if you don't have detect invisibility, somebody's gonna fucking die. Slythe is renowned for one-shotting and exploding party members in my games. The Amazon ambush is very deadly. There's a couple thieves in Baldur's Gate City and other areas of the game where if you don't have detect invis, somebody's gonna fucking die. So that is definitely a problem, but again, there are other ways to get around that. You can bring another wizard. I will typically always take 2 wizards in BG1, like Edwin and Baeloth is the dynamic duo in my opinion. But again, you do you. It's not completely the end of the world. You're just gonna have to play around that. Just keep that in mind. But that's the only downside, really, to being a conjurer in Baldur's Gate 1. No identification, which is whatever. No detect illusion, which definitely sucks. But again, there's ways to get around that. When I look at Edwin, I think of a wizard who has exactly what a wizard needs, which is 16 con, and he gets extra spells. It's perfect. That's 10 out of 10. Great companion. He is absolutely better than Dynaheir because of that. Getting an extra spell per level is very, very nice to have. If you that also will double with the Ring of Wizardry, for example. So let's say Dynaheir has 3 level 1 spells. Edwin's gonna have 4 level 1 spells. With the Ring of Wizardry, he now has 8, while Dynaheir only has 6. In the original Baldur's Gate, you could stack Rings of Wizardry, which was hilarious. So Edwin could have like literally 20 level 1 spells, while Dynaheir would be sitting on like 16. Doesn't make that much of a difference. It really doesn't. It's not the end of the world. But Edwin is 100% in every way, shape, and form superior to Dynaheir. And for that reason, we have him listed as an S tier wizard. As far as conflicts go, and pairs go, Edwin's not paired with anybody. You pick him up in Nashkel on the bridge to the very south, and he wants you to go and kill Dynaheir. So you go over to the Nolan encampment, whoop Dynaheir's ass, and you have a better wizard named Edwin in your party forever. The Red Wizards, you can't fight the Red Wizards with Edwin in your party, but they don't really drop anything amazing anyways, so it doesn't really fucking matter. Trying to think if there's any other dialogues for having Edwin in your party. There's a couple situations where there will be an int check. For example, when you're talking to the Ogrelians in the Nolan encampment, a couple mods will actually have Edwin convince them to let you go by, and if you don't have anyone in your party, that doesn't happen. Stuff like that. It doesn't really fucking matter, though, at the end of the day. Edwin's just a better wizard than Dynaheir. I mean, he's arguably the best wizard in BG1, because unlike Baeloth, Edwin can actually learn and cast level 5 spells, like Cloud Kill and Chaos, which are obscenely overpowered. But still, 10 out of 10 companion, one of my favorites. I enjoy taking Edwin. I like his personality a lot. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about him. S tier all the way. Up next, we have our first absolute shit tier companion, and that is Eldoth. Eldoth is normally acquired in the 3rd area of Cloakwood. He wants you to go to Baldur's Gate City, where he is currently wooing a strumpet by the name of Skie. And yeah, he is a bard. He is neutral evil. He has 16 strength, which is actually decent for a bard, 12 dex, which is dog shit, 15 con, which sucks because he's not going to get an extra HP per level, only 1, 13 inch, which is terrible, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be popping pots to learn spells anyways, 10 wisdom, and 16 charisma, which is also a little bit sad for a bard, since that's really all they're good for is identifying shit, having a couple spells, being a ranged and wand user, and having decent charisma, and he kind of comes up short across the board, which is embarrassing. His special ability is to create 5 poisoned arrows. They're basically identical to arrows of biting, which I always have found to be completely dog shit, because not only are they considered non-magical, so they don't go through protection from normal missiles, but also they get a save on top of it, and excuse me, good god. And enemies fail their save all the time whenever you don't want them to, so it really comes to naught, I should say. For some hilarious reason, bards are able to use every single weapon in the game except for combos, which is hilarious to me. I don't know why that is, if that was an oversight or what. Although, to be fair, he can't use a combo normally anyway because he doesn't have the strength requirement. However, you could give him the dead shot, but even if you give him the dead shot, and even if you give him the brawling gloves, or the archer gauntlets, you're gonna find that Eldoth's Thaco with a ranged weapon is fucking terrible. And the chance of him hitting the broadside of a barn, if he's a foot away from it, it's up in the air, honestly. He will probably fucking miss. He can't aim to save his goddamn life. I don't know if he's squinting right here because he's actually blind or what the deal is, but he sucks. He can't aim for shit. And so those poison arrows, although they sound really cool on paper, you'll find that you'll use all 5, maybe all 10, because he prepped some the night before too, and he missed every single one. And even if somehow he lands one, they can still save versus it, and then it does absolutely nothing anyways. The only reason you take Eldoth is either you want to play with Skie, because you've never played with her before. I'll be completely honest, I didn't know Skie was a companion for the longest time. When I was playing this 20 fucking whatever years ago, way back in the day, I didn't even know Skie was a companion. Because by the time you get to Cloakwood and you find Eldoth, you've already got your party, right? And if you don't, you picked up Coran because he's first, and you're like, yeah, I'm taking the dude with 20 dex who's got 3 points in fucking longbow, bro. I'm not taking this dumbass bard over here. Like, get that shit out of here. You know what I mean? So even if you do pick up Eldoth early, which you can, you know, mods will move him. I believe my mod right now, the tweaks moves him to, I think it moves him to the little marker just east of the stone circle of Candlekeep. So you can pick him up extremely early if you want him to. If you want to. But again, bards in BG1 are pretty terrible. They're very good in Baldur's Gate 2 because they're weaker fighter mages, and fighter mages are arguably the best class in the game. But in Baldur's Gate 1, their spell progression is crap, and I mean really crap. They don't have spells at all at level 1. They'll get, I believe at max level, they'll get 3 level 1 spells, 2 level 2, 2 level 3, and then 1 level 4. And that's at 160,000 XP. And don't forget, they can't use Rings of Wizardry, right? For some hilarious reason, that's wizard only. A lot of the Ring of Acuity and stuff cannot be used by bards. So you find yourself with a class that is supposed to be like a wizard and a thief and a fighter, but really can't do any of it because there's no helmets, right? So if you're using rogue rebalancing, you can't buy them a hood either. None of that shit doesn't work either. For some dumb reason, bards can't use the hoods, so they're crittable. Their Thaco is terrible, and they don't get shit for spells either, so it's like, what the hell do you use them for? You know what I mean? Like, they're good at right-clicking equipment, but a level 1 mage can identify stuff. You find it really hard to find a place to take Garrick or Eldoth, and that's why they're both listed as C tier here. Now, if all you want to use them for is for wands, that's perfectly serviceable, right? Like, you give them a wand of monster summoning, a wand of paralyzation, a wand of fireball, they're going to be able to click that wand just as well as any wizard in the game. You know what I mean? And again, you can still give them sleep and other stuff, but typically by the time you get these bards rolling and they have spells that they can use on the regular, there's no reason to use them over a regular wizard. A regular wizard's going to have better spell progression. They're going to have more spells available to them. They're going to get those higher level spell slots available quicker, right? Wizard's going to get his level 3 spell slots long before Eldoth or Garrick will. And same thing goes for level 4, right? Edwin's going to get Stone Skin at 70,000 XP. Eldoth needs 160,000 XP to get 1 level 4 spell. Edwin gets 2, 70k. It's like, it's a night and day difference here. They have a tiny bit more HP, they have more options for weapons, but again, their Thaco is so bad, it doesn't really fucking matter. I feel like I beat this horse to death, so I'm just gonna go and do a quick summary real quick. Bards suck ass in Baldur's Gate 1. They just do. They're shit. They're crap from start to finish, the very beginning of the game, at the very end of the game. The only thing they have going for them is 10 lore per level, and the ability to use wands, in my opinion. They're still absolutely viable. I have played mini bards before, and I do have fun playing them. But if I was trying to make the best party, I'm telling you right now, Garrick and Eldoth are not getting mentioned ever. Like, it's not happening. Up next, we have Faldorn, which is a very interesting case. Faldorn is a druid who has one of the shittiest stat spreads in the entire game. I think maybe only Quayle has a worse stat spread. She has 12 strength, which is useless, 15 dex, which is garbage, 11 con, which is terrible, 10 int, which is bad, but it doesn't matter, 16 wisdom, which is okay, she'll get a couple low-level spells, and 15 charisma, which is also useless. What makes Faldorn interesting is that she is the only divine caster in Baldur's Gate 1 that can get access to level 5 spells. In the original Baldur's Gate, this is kind of whatever. The level 5 spells for Divine Magic in the original Baldur's Gate was like Cure Critical Wounds. I think they got Flame Strike, which is a cleric spell now. I'm trying to think what else they got. They got like one other spell, and I think that was it. And it was pretty underwhelming. Like, obviously, you know, curing 27 HP in the original Baldur's Gate is very strong, but it's still whatever. However, in the Enhanced Edition, or if you're playing Baldur's Gate 2, Faldorn, at that level, will have access to Insect Plague, which is, I would say for its spell slot level, in the original game, Insect Plague is the most busted spell in the entire game, bar none. It is stronger than Fallen Planetar, it is stronger than Comet, Dragon's Breath, Time Stop. I would put it above every single spell because it had no counter. You cast this spell, everything around you would get destroyed. The damage it did was stupid. It completely blocked all spell casting. It ignored all immunities. It hit undead. It hit living. It hit everything. And it feared. And you needed a massive save to avoid it. And it was just gross. Absolutely gross. And it stacked. So you could cast multiple of them too. This spell has been nerfed very heavily in SCS. It now ignores undead. Doesn't do anything to them at all. It will eat up stone skins. It is avoided by protection from magical weapons. It will get destroyed by a death spell. It will get destroyed by a fire shield, etc., etc. There's all these ways to counter it now, and it is still one of the most broken spells in the game. And being able to cast that in Baldur's Gate 1 especially is disgusting. You will pretty much automatically win any fight you get an Insect Plague off. And that's just the way it is. Aside from that, however, she's pretty shit. Her stats are absolutely fucking terrible. Her special ability is to summon a Dreadwolf. In the original Baldur's Gate, Dreadwolves were just regular doggos with extra HP. In the Enhanced Edition, I don't know why, but they're considered undead. So they actually have a lot of immunities, which is actually kind of good. You know, it's useful. So that's something, but even then, it's still a low-level summon. It's got 30 hit points. I mean, Saravok's basically going to one-shot it. You know, most enemies are going to kill it very, very quickly. It's pretty fucking whatever. I guess you could use it to absorb a spell or two from a wizard, which is okay. You know, having an extra summon never hurts nobody, but compared to, like, Tiax's gas summon, like, the Dreadwolf is pretty dog shit. But again, the only reason you really ever would take Faldorn is if you're looking at the high-level spells, right? That's the only reason to ever really think to yourself, I'm going to take Faldorn. She get Iron Skin, which is cool, and she can get Insect Plague. Those are the two level 5 spells you look at. I guess you could also argue that maybe you'd use Pixie Dust now and then, which is the AoE invisibility spell, because you can't normally acquire that in Baldur's Gate 1. You can only get that through either extremely good fortune, from killing doppelgangers or a couple other monsters that will have a very tiny chance to drop that one specific spell along with a million other items. Or you can have a sorcerer and have them learn that for their level 3 spell. That's the only other way to get AoE invisibility in BG1. So that is something you could potentially use. For level 4 spell slots, which she does get long before Jaheira, because Jaheira is a multi-class, you can get the Nymphs. Nymphs are quite good. They have Confusion, they have Hold Monster, they have an AoE heal, they are quite powerful. If you're using Icewind Delvification, obviously Druids get a couple of extra spells. If I were going to be using Faldorn, I would probably do, for level 1, get rid of Entangle, because this is good in BG1, the original, but not in Enhanced Edition. I would take Sun Scorches. I would take Good Berries. No. I would take Cures and Charms, and for level 3, I would take Call Lightning, right? And you could also do Summon Insects. These aren't nearly as good as Insect Plague, but these are perfectly serviceable and usable for low levels. And the one thing about Baldur's Gate 1, which is actually nice compared to BG2, is I would say a good 60% plus of the game is outdoors. And that actually matters because you get to use Call Lightning outdoors. And Call Lightning hits hard. Don't forget, Faldorn is a single class druid. She's going to be getting quite a few levels quicker compared to other companions. Druids, along with thieves, will be able to hit very high levels in BG1, higher than most other classes will be able to hit. And because of that, spells that scale with level, like Call Lightning does an extra 1d8 per level, and then will continue to be called down after that, the damage is extremely noticeable. The spell hits like a truck, and she'll be able to use it a lot because she's outside a lot. While, for example, in Baldur's Gate 2, you don't really get to use it all that often because you're indoors most of the time. So for Faldorn, level 1, Sun Scorch, maybe a heal or two. Level 2, Charm Mammal, which will work on both humanoids and animals, which is actually quite nice. Charm Person or Mammal, it's better than just regular Charm Person. And then for level 3, you have Call Lightning and you have Summon Insects. Those are the two big ones. Icewind Deification will add things like Spike Growth, Moonblade, Mold Touch. Mold Touch is actually fun to play with, but I really wouldn't recommend bothering with it unless you're really in for the long haul. Spike Growth is actually quite decent AoE, but this character has the ability to do Call Lightning, which is basically identical to Flame Strike, which is a level 5 cleric spell, but this is level 3 and does electrical instead of fire. So very, very, very strong spell. And again, level 4, you take Nymphs, and level 5, you're going to be doing Insect Plague. And because Insect Plague is so fucking good, and because Nymphs are so fucking good, I would be inclined to rate her S tier, but the fact is, again, unless you're using mods, you can't get her until Cloakwood. And Cloakwood isn't as late as Baldur's Gate City, but it's damn close. As soon as you finish Cloakwood, you go to Baldur's Gate City. By the time you get Faldorn, you are well past 32,000 XP unless you are just straight up rushing through the game. And again, that sucks, because Faldorn could be a fun companion to play with if you got her early and were able to truly customize her spells and maximize her XP gains in order to get those spell slots unlocked early. And she'll be devastating with them. She'll be extremely, extremely fucking strong. Nymph and Insect Plague are absolutely god tier. But because you can't pick her up until Cloakwood, I have her at A tier. Again, her stats are irrelevant. Her gearing is completely fucking irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you give her. She's going to be absolutely useless in melee. She is going to be doing nothing but throwing darts or throwing bullets with a sling. She just really can't contribute in that regard. But it doesn't matter, because she casts a spell or two, and all of a sudden she's contributed more to the fight than any other party member you have. And that alone is just insane to me. Up next, we have Garrick, the counterpart of Eldoth, who's just as shitty, possibly shittier, because not only is Garrick extremely squishy, but at least Eldoth, you can go and pick up Skie, which is a 10 out of 10 companion, which we'll talk about later on. Garrick you can actually acquire very early as well without mods. You can pick him up in Baragost. However, if you are playing with SES, you have to fight Silky, who is an absolute god tier giga chad of a wizard. Well, technically she's a bard or a thief mage, whatever. And chances are she's gonna shit down your throat, which means you can't actually get Garrick super early without cheesing the hell out of Silky. And if you do, however, you can pick up Garrick, who is a bard, chaotic neutral, 14 strength, 16 dex, 9 con, 13 int, 14 wisdom, 15 charisma. As we said before, most of these scores are completely irrelevant. His con is worse than Eldoth, so he's going to have less HP per level. His dexterity is better, so he's going to be more likely to hit with ranged weapons. And his strength is worse, but who cares, because you're not sending Garrick into melee for the same reasons you don't send Eldoth into melee. Garrick and Eldoth you basically use as wand monkeys. Now, there's one thing I did forget to mention about Eldoth, which is the Bard Song. In the original Baldur's Gate, their morale actually played a very important part of the game. People's morale would break all the time. Just seeing an ogre mage would make some of your party members run away. If somebody died, they'd run away. If somebody took damage, they'd start running away. And to get around that, you either go and get yourself wasted at an inn, you go and drink a copious amount of alcohol, and then start fighting afterwards. Or you'd have a bard use their Bard Song. Now, the Enhanced Edition has recently changed the Bard Song to where it gives you a luck bonus as well, which is actually decent. Luck is good. We talked about that with Alora, right? With the Rabbit's Foot. Luck is very, very, very nice to have. That being said, when you're singing, you're not using your wand, you're not casting spells, you're not auto-attacking, you're standing there with your thumb up your ass, playing your fucking lute, and you're singing a song. You can't see me strumming my lute there. Let me hold my arms a little higher. There you go. And you're strumming a song. And that is nice compared to the fact that chances are he's not going to hit anyways, and his spells are going to be completely fucking useless anyways, because he doesn't even have spells when you pick him up, right? He's level 1. He doesn't even have a level 1 spell yet. At level 1, bards don't have magic. They get that shit later. So, it's tough to say. I also have Garrick rated as C tier. I have him the exact same as Eldoth, because technically you can get Garrick sooner, but he's still just as useless. I have played with Garrick many times in the past, just for fun. I think his personality is hilarious. He does all the stupid Shakespeare quotes, etc., etc. I think that's funny and enjoyable, but when it comes to him being a good and useful companion, he's pretty last on the list, man. He is pretty down there. He is definitely way down on the list. However, can still use wands, can still ID shit, can still kind of contribute with range damage. And so that alone makes him C tier as opposed to RP tier, because wands are pretty damn busted in this game. Up next, we have Imoen, everyone's favorite ball spawn stepsis, who you can acquire immediately at the start of the game. She has 12 strength. No, she doesn't. Alright, give me just a second here to go and, what I did was I did character creation. And I did the Clue UA console. I'm literally alt-tabbing and looking up Baldur's Gate 1 companions right now to see what her actual stats are. I did the console in order to summon companions and make them appear so I could put them in the party and then talk about them. And unfortunately, there are multiple iterations of Imoen, and apparently the one I summoned was not the correct one. So you have my most humble and sincere apologies for that, my friends. So these stats, just ignore them. They're not there. Imoen is a thief who has 9 strength, 18 dex, 16 con, 17 int, 11 wisdom, and 16 charisma. Imoen's stat spread is actually quite good for everything but backstabbing. 18 dex is great, 16 con is excellent. That's gonna give her max HP per level. Her dex score is solid. She's able to dual class to a mage. Her wisdom and charisma is completely irrelevant. As far as playing with Imoen goes, I usually will not dual class Imoen at all. I typically find that I would rather have a thief for all of the game and have all the points into thievery in order to maximize open locks and find traps, which are both quite important, unless I'm playing the original Baldur's Gate, because in the original game, you could give her a book and she could dual class into a conjurer. In the original Baldur's Gate, you could dual class to a mage or into specialist mages. And specialist mages require an additional stat to dual class into based on whatever that specialist mage is. For example, a conjurer requires high constitution. You'll notice that Edwin also has 16 con, kind of similar to that reason. So you could dual class Imoen into a conjurer, which gives her extra spells per level, just like Edwin and Dynaheir and Xzar, which is cool. And for that, and also in the original Baldur's Gate, the way thieving abilities worked is you actually had a couple combined, like stealth was one ability, you know? And so it was a lot easier for you to maximize your thieving abilities and being able to dual class and play the dual class at the same time. With the Enhanced Edition, that is a lot less so, a lot more difficult to do. And for that reason, I really don't ever dual class her. If I'm forced to take my stepsis, I'm just going to have her as a pure thief. I'm going to give her a decent bow, give her decent armor, and she's going to sit in the back, and she's going to pluck her bowstring and shoot people, and I'll have her come up and disarm traps and open locks. And that's basically it, which is boring. And that's probably why I never really take her, to be honest. I don't really play with Imoen ever. I typically find myself, if I want mages, I'm going to pick up a mage. If I want a thief, I'm going to get a thief that is very good at dealing range damage, or a thief that's able to backstab as well. So Imoen fulfills a role that I'm not really interested in, which is the thief mage. I'm not interested in that whatsoever in Baldur's Gate 1 unless they're able to backstab, and she can't because her strength score is shit. So when I'm looking at a thief, I'm looking at Alora, I'm looking at Montaron. Even Safana is better, because at least Safana has her stupid kiss, or Tiax. Like, pretty much every thief in the game, I would put above Imoen, just because their secondary class or ability, I find I would be using more. So if you dual class Imoen to a mage, for example, let's say you dual class at like level 5, level 4. Yeah, 5 to 10,000 XP, you dual class fairly early, you don't need too much XP in your mage to get those thieving levels back. Now Imoen can do one thing only, which is either finding traps or opening locks. She can't do both until she's higher level. And if you're dueling Imoen at like level 7 or level 8, it's gonna be a long fucking time before you get those thieving levels back, and you need those thieving levels then, man. The traps in the Mage Island are deadly, Durlag's Tower are deadly, even Deveorns and Cloakwood are extremely deadly. You need to have a thief to be able to disarm those, or you need to have some idiot suicide, or pop anti-magic potions, but even then that still has issues, because like if a lightning bolt starts flying at you, you better be able to fucking block it on all your party members, not just the guy who's walking over the trap. So I have a very low opinion of Imoen. I don't like her personality, I don't like her voice. In Baldur's Gate 2, this really creeps up more because she whines left and right about being tortured, and like, shut the fuck up, I was tortured too. You don't hear me bitching about it every 2 goddamn seconds. Like, give it a rest, stepsis. In BG1, she's not nearly as annoying, but as I mentioned before, she fulfills a role that I don't really need, which is an extra backup mage. I guess you could argue she could use wands by dual classing into a mage, but again, she's not. If you dual class her into a mage, she's now a shitty thief, or she's not going to be high enough to get her thieving abilities back till way too late in the game. So for that reason, I have Imoen at B tier. You do get her at level 1, which means you have complete customization over where she puts every single stat point and proficiency point, which is cool, but I still wouldn't use her. If I had to use her, again, give her a decent bow, give her some armor, sit her in the back, and just have her start plucking her strings and ranging shit down. She'd only be there as the thief monkey, and I would never take her for any other purpose, to be honest. Which sucks, but that's just the way it is. Alright, that is it for Group 2. Let's move on to Group 3. First up, we have Jaheira, who is a half-elf fighter druid. Everyone's favorite Dami druid mommy. She has a fairly decent stat spread of 15 strength, 17 dex, 17 con, 10 int, 14 wisdom, and 15 charisma. As always, keep in mind having higher than 16 constitution for fighter ethos classes is very good because they do additional HP per level. So Jaheira will actually have a fairly decent amount of HP even for a multi-class. Her dex also means you don't need to give her brawling hands. All you want to do is give her either something to give her some extra strength, either Rasaad's belt or the gloves from Baldur's Gate City, and Jaheira is now suddenly a very capable frontline tank and slash fighter. She also has druid spells. As we said before about Faldorn, the level 5 spells are very powerful. However, Jaheira does not get those because she is a multi-class. Jaheira will get level 4 spells. She will not get level 5 spells in Baldur's Gate 1 unless you remove the XP cap and level her up very, very high. However, she does get level 4, which means she will get access to nymphs, she will get access to Call Lightning at level 3, she will get access to regular basic summon insects, she will get access to Charm Mammal, Cure, Sunscorch, and that's basically what I use her for. I'll go and grab the Sun Scorches early on. The fire damage is nice, the blind is good, a couple little heals left and right, maybe a charm or two, Call Lightning, and that's what Jaheira is going to be using for 90% of the game until she gets Summon Nymph, and that will also be obviously very helpful once she gets that. As far as build goes, you can give her full plate, on keg plate, you can give her one of Drizzt scimitars, you can give her a club. I believe she actually has points in clubs, and then I'll typically put points in scimitar afterwards. Excuse me. Because the +3 scimitars are from Drizzt are arguably the best weapon she can get in Baldur's Gate 1. I think they are just flat out the best weapon she can get in Baldur's Gate 1, period. But you can also go and give her a nice shield. She does have Armor of the Faith, which doesn't do that much in Baldur's Gate 1, but it will stack for the elemental resistance. For helms, I always like to give her the helm off the Ogre Mage, southwest of Candlekeep, which gives her extra resistances to fire, etc. So you give her that, give her the Ring of Fire resistance, then you pop Armor of the Faith, and now all of a sudden she's practically immune to fire, which is pretty damn good. And then that's basically what I use her as. She's a frontline fighter, tank, who can cast some extra clerical support with heals, or she can cast some little bit of damage spells like Call Lightning or Sun Scorch. Jaheira is a perfectly good companion. She is definitely not the best in the game, but definitely worthy of a solid A tier for sure. I will take and use Jaheira. I've been taking and using her a lot more lately just because I wanted to get out of the habit of taking the same 5 companions every single run, and I've been enjoying her lately. So solid A tier for me. Definitely would recommend taking. If you don't want to play with Khalid, you can just murder him and drop him on the side of the road. Doesn't matter. Although Khalid is also quite good too, so there's nothing wrong with taking him as well. Up next, we have Kagain, who is the best tank in the game, bar none. Kagain is a dwarven fighter, so he is going to get shorty saves. He's going to get the maximum amount of shorty saves as well. He is also going to... Oh, I forgot to talk about that with Alora. Alora's constitution's dog shit, so her shorty saves are... I guess you could say her shorty saves kind of come up short. Excuse me. Shorty saves are based on constitution. If you have low con, you don't get shorty saves. That's just the way it is. Kagain has 20 con, which is busted and broken. He's going to be sitting on 15 HP per level, which is insanely good. His strength score of 16 is totally whatever. His dex score is crap. You'll go and give it the brawling hands, and now he's the best tank in the game, bar none. He'll have over 120 hit points at max level, even higher with equipment, and even higher with additional potions and all sorts of other garbage. He will come with 2 points in axes, which is great. You can hit high mastery in axes. He also comes with a point and flail and Morningstar and crossbow. This actually gives you options with Kagain. He already has mastery, or excuse me, he already has specialization with axes. So you can either go high mastery for your 2 proficiency points that you get afters, or you can put them into crossbow, and now he has high mastery with crossbow as well as specialization with axes, which is pretty cool. So you actually have a lot of options for how you want to play Kagain. You could absolutely turn him into a fucking decent archer. He's the only character in the game, to my knowledge, that can actually get 3 points in crossbows, because you need to be a fighter, and I don't think any other fighter in the game has 3 points in crossbows. So you can give him the crossbow speed. This will give him extra APR, and all of a sudden, again, assuming you give him the gloves to give him 18 dex, Kagain is a really fucking capable archer, in addition to being a very capable tank. Like I said, the best tank in the game. And that's cool. You could do 2 things with this son of a bitch. Or again, like I said, you could just dump all your points into axes to get high mastery. You could put 2 points into flail. Now he's a master of flails. Like, it's pretty cool. You have a lot of options here. These 3 stats don't matter, although I would like to point out that Kagain has the highest int of any non-wizard in the game. No idea why, but he does. So that's pretty nice. It doesn't do anything, but that's pretty cool. Maybe it's because he had the forethought to roll a beautiful, handsome dwarf, and that's why his int is so high. At least that's what I choose to believe. Obviously, rolling a beautiful, handsome, bearded dwarf takes an enormous amount of intellect, and that's probably why his int score is so high. But I just like to point it out there to remind people that dwarves are the best, and everyone else is inferior. But aside from that, Kagain will work well in pretty much every party. He will go and bitch at Yeslick now and then, but it doesn't really fucking matter. I've had them both in my party for ages, and I've never seen them fight, although I've talked about that before, that I still maintain that charisma actually stops people from fighting. But, you know, what the fuck do I know? Kagain is one of the original OG companions, in the sense that I took him in my first game, and I basically took him in every game after that, because he is so fucking good. If you haven't taken Kagain yet, highly recommend it. He is the best tank in the game, bar none. S tier companion all the way. Also extremely versatile with the fact that he can go into crossbows. You give him full plate, you give him the brawling gloves, you give him a good shield, and the man's sitting on -6 AC with an enormous amount of hit points, and like, he can survive pretty much everything, even on insane difficulty. And that's saying something, because a lot of other NPCs can't boast that at all. And again, with his flexibility too, 10 out of 10 companion. Good shit all the way. Up next is Khalid. Khalid is also S tier, and basically the exact same as Kagain in that regard. He has 15 strength, about the same, pretty whatever. 16 dex, okay. 17 con isn't as good. He'll definitely get less HP per level, but still very much so up there. The other 3 stats are irrelevant. He's a pure fighter with 2 points in a longsword, 1 point in an axe, and 1 point in a longbow. Much the same way as Kagain, You can put 2 points right here into longbow, and Khalid is now an exceptional archer. You could also put 2 more points into longsword, and now he has high mastery in longswords. He is not going to be as tanky as Kagain. He is not going to have the shorty saving throws of Kagain, but because he has his point spread in the exact same way, and his stats are so similar, Khalid is my go-to second tank in this game. Because again, good HP, his proficiencies are solid, and flexibility. Like, I love having the flexibility in here. And we talked about that before, why Imoen's flexibility is irrelevant, because what she can flex into, you don't fucking need. What you can flex into with Khalid is very useful. Let's say, for example, you have Kagain. You don't need another tank, but you want another archer. And you're not going to get Coran until ages. 3 points of the longbow on Khalid as a fighter, that is perfectly decent. Khalid is gonna actually fuck with 3 points of longbow. Going from specialization to mastery is actually massive. So, no points, you get a penalty, right? 1 point, no THAC0 penalty. 2 points is specialized, you get 1 THAC0, 2 damage. Mastery is 3 THAC0, 3 damage, which is a really, really nice THAC0 boost. High Mastery, you get 1 damage and some speed factor, and then Grand Mastery, you get more damage, and then I think you get another speed factor, and then APR. You can't actually hit Grand Mastery with any companion in Baldur's Gate 1 or any character without some really stupid, dumbass dual class shit. So you can't get Grand Mastery, which sucks. But getting Mastery is actually really, really noticeable. Where THAC0 matters most is in Baldur's Gate 1. So being able to get 3 points into a weapon like Coran has, like Kagain can, like Khalid can, really only the fighter at those, right? Because obviously Rangers and Paladins and multi-classes, they're normally capped at 2. So when somebody's able to get 3, it's very noticeable and typically will make up for a slightly worse stat spread. So that's just something to keep in mind. Khalid, despite what a lot of people think of Khalid as a coward, I think everyone has heard better part of valor at least once in their fucking life. Khalid's morale failure break is very similar to some of the highest in the game. The problem is, when he gets hit a couple times, because of his HP being lower than Kagain, you end up hearing it more often than not. Which is why a lot of people mistakenly think that Khalid has one of the shittiest morale breaks in the game. It's not actually the case. And again, in the Enhanced Edition, morale matters far less. In the original game, morale is a big part of the game, and you want to be getting people drunk. You may actually consider taking Garrick with you to make sure morale doesn't break, because it can fuck you over pretty hard. Or you cast some other spells or do some other shit and you'll be fine, but it doesn't really matter. But it is something I did want to touch on, because there are people out there who do play the original games, and morale failure does actually matter in there quite a bit. But all in all, Khalid is definitely a very solid companion. I still give him S tier rating. I have found Khalid in my party more times than any other, with the exception of probably Kagain and Baeloth, I think. I think those two, Kagain, Baeloth, and Coran, are the 3 I've taken more than any other, and then Khalid is probably 4th after that. Very solid. Up next, we have Kivan. I have a very low opinion of Kivan. Kivan is an elf, which means he actually gets a bonus to bows. He comes with 2 points into halberds, 2 points to the longbow. As a ranger, he automatically gets 2 points into 2 weapon style. He has 18-12 strength, so he can use comp bows, unlike Khalid, who cannot. He has 17 dex, which is quite decent. His constitution's crap, which really sucks, because as a ranger, this means he does not get bonus HP per level. 10 int, 14 wisdom, and 8 charisma. So other 3 stats completely irrelevant, as always. The elf is nice. Giving him extra THAC0 is always good. He can use comp bows, which are very solid. You can absolutely make this man a decent archer. However, I almost typically never do. One, he was bugged for the longest time in the original game, where if you picked him up too early, he would insist that you go to the bandit camp, which you didn't even have unlocked until you go to clear Nashkel, and then he would just leave your party because you can't do his task, which is an impossible task, which sucked. That has been fixed in the Enhanced Edition, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. But I still have a very low opinion of this man for a couple reasons. One, he fights with Vicky, who is by far the best cleric and the one I take all the fucking time. But 2, if I have the choice between getting an archer who has good HP and can frontline, and getting an archer who has one better Thaco and can't frontline, I'm telling you which one I'm going to take. It's going to be Khalid every single fucking day of the week. There is no reason to take Kivan over Khalid, and that's just the God's honest truth. Taking Khalid, 3 points in longbow, he is now Kivan's equivalent. Khalid will also level up quicker because he's a fighter as opposed to a ranger. Khalid will also have way more HP, and you can also frontline too, just perfectly fine. Kivan's not bad. I just personally feel like he's overrated. When it comes to being an archer in Baldur's Gate 1, top tier, you have Coran, and after that I put Khalid. Kivan's next to the list, and even then, Kivan and Shar-Teel are pretty close together in my opinion. They can both use the combo. They both have 2 points in combo. I don't know. I think he's personally, people overrate Kivan a little bit too much. I still have him at A tier because he's a perfectly serviceable archer. Being able to use the combo is quite nice because then you can give the dead shot to Khalid or to Coran. But at the end of the day, it's just whatever. For Kivan, for gear, you want to give him the same gear you give to pretty much every archer. Full plate, the best bow you can use, the best arrows you can find, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't really matter what you use after that. Honestly, the full plate itself is kind of overkill in a lot of my games. Full plate goes to Kagain or Jaheira or Khalid, whoever's tanking, and then I might even just leave the leather armor on the guys in the back because I don't care about them whatsoever. I'm pretty cavalier when it comes to that shit. Their only job is to shoot things, and he shoots things okay. So for that, A tier. All right, and that is gonna do it for. Oh no, we got one more. We got Minsc. Minsc is another OG in the sense that in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, I firmly believe that Minsc is the worst character in the game, bar none. Until the Enhanced Edition. There's another gamer that was added in the Enhanced Edition that now takes the place and owns the coveted spot of worst companion. So why is Minsc shit, Dev? Well, he has great strength, which is nice, 1893. His dex is okay, 16. His con's a bit sad, 16. But Dad, that's only one lower than Khalid. Why is that so bad? Well, let me tell you, friends. Let me tell you why it's so bad. One, he's a ranger, so he's going to level up slower. His dexterity bonus is pretty whatever. You know, you can give him a good archer's gloves. His con bonus is only one less than Khalid's, but he's also leveling up slower as well, and he's also capped at 2 proficiency points as well. He starts out with 2 points in two-handed swords, 1 point in longbow, 2 points in two-weapon style, and 1 point in mace. And this is unfortunate, because if you want to make Minsc an archer, you have to wait until level 3, until you get another proficiency point to put another point into longbow and get him specialized. Everybody else... Well, I wouldn't say everybody else, because Khalid doesn't have 2 points in longbow originally either. However, Khalid is much better suited to melee than Minsc is. And Kivan will have 2 points in longbow right away. Coran will have 3 points in longbow right away. Minsc's problem is that his strength score is overloaded and his other stats are lacking. They're not as bad as some other characters. Minsc is definitely better than Kivan when it comes to Constitution, but as far as his archery stat goes, I don't know. They're basically the same, really, at the end of the day. I personally hate Minsc for personal reasons. I think Boo is great. Boo is a 10 out of 10 companion, but honestly, his voice drives me absolutely fucking insane. I'm gonna be completely honest. When you hear "Go for the eyes, Boo, go for the eyes, Rarsk" for the 100th time, you kinda want to kill Minsc off and just tell him to shut the fuck up. In BG1, he's not actually nearly as bad as I make him out to be. In Baldur's Gate 2, he was definitely the worst companion, but in BG1, he's not. Like I said, he's pretty much identical to Kivan in that regard. He's got a tiny bit more HP. If you want to go and throw him into melee, you can, but honest to God, he's going to get torn up really, really quickly. And that's a problem. Minsc will get torn to fucking ribbons very, very, very quickly. Because Minsc isn't your tank. The best armor is going to be going to your tank, right? It's going to be going to Khalid. It's going to be going to Kagain. It's going to be going to Jaheira. After that, you have the Onkeg plate mail, right? Like, you got full plate, you get Onkeg. The Onkeg, that's probably going to your cleric, right? Because you don't want her to get peppered by arrows either. So that's going to be going to Branwen. That's going to be going to Vicky. Then what do you have for Minsc? Now you can go up north and farm Onkegs for the next 10,000 years and get some, Onkeg mail and make that shit for him, and then he's okay. But still, all it takes is one hit and Minsc has to run away. Same with Kivan. But at least Kivan has 2 points in longbow right out the gate, so he can start arching and be very effective with it. Minsc doesn't have that luxury. I don't know. He's a worse archer than Kivan. He has higher strength, but the strength you really don't use because you don't want to send him into melee because he dies in 2 fucking seconds. I personally find that Minsc is shittier at every single role compared to other companions in this game. He's a worse tank than Khalid. He's a worse archer than Khalid. He's a better tank than Kivan, but he's a worse archer than Kivan. And he can't even come close to Coran. So, at what point do you really rationalize using Minsc over anything but for RP purposes? You're taking him because he's one of the original companions who's iconic. He's practically the face of Baldur's Gate, honestly. Minsc is pretty much the face of Baldur's Gate, and that's why you fucking take him in your party. And that's it. Like, straight up. That is the only reason to take him over the other companions. His Berserk ability is fucking trash. It is a shitty version, it's a shitty hybrid of Fighter Berserking and Barbarian Berserking, with the added bonus that you lose control of Minsc completely, and he will attack your own fucking party, which is just fucking terrible. He does get Charm Animal, but every Ranger does. Like, who cares? I have a really, really, really low opinion of Minsc. He is worthy of a B tier. I would like to rate him RP because I really truly feel like unless you're role-playing, you shouldn't be taking Minsc. But I'm going to go ahead and leave him B tier because you do give him a couple levels. He will have 2 points in longbow. You can set him in the back and he can shoot shit just fine, and that's okay. But in Baldur's Gate 2, there is no excuse for taking Minsc. In BG1, maybe Kivan's dead, maybe Shar-Teel bought the farm, maybe Khalid left the party because you accidentally murdered 3 innocent people in Baldur's Gate City, and you just went to Temple and got your reputation back, but the good people in your party already left, and you need an archer. Well, Minsc is okay. But honestly, can't stand him. Not a fucking fan. Alright. I have Minsc in this party as well. I guess I fucked up. Okay. Up next, we have Montaron, one of my favorite characters, actually my favorite NPC in Baldur's Gate 1 by far, for personality and class-wise. I love fighter thieves, especially fighter thieves that can backstab. Coran obviously isn't nearly as effective in backstabbing as Monty. Monty, being a halfling, gets bonuses to stealth and will stealth very reliably, comparatively speaking, to Coran. He also, because you recruit him in level 1, will have the option to put his points wherever you want them to. If you want to max find traps and open locks, you can. If you want to dump all his points into stealth, you can. His stat spread's also quite decent. 16 strength, 17 dex, 15 cons, a bit low, 12 int, 13 wisdom, and 9 charisma. Monty will come with points in short sword and sling, which you can then optimize that as you so please. Slings for Monty are actually decent because he does get the strength bonus as well, and that will apply onto the missiles. And 2 points in short swords are great because you can get a +2 short sword very easily by killing the named hobgoblin just south of Baragost. So that's good. And then you can use whatever you want with Monty. You can do whatever you want. You want to use him as a backstabber? He can do that. You want to use him as a ranger? He can do that with slings. If you want to put 2 points in longbow, which is what I typically do with him, now he can use slings. Now he can use the dead shot and use dispelling arrows, arrows of detonation, etc., and he can still go in and backstab with the short sword of backstabbing, especially later on once you get it in Baldur's Gate City. On top of that, I love his personality. Monty is vicious and rude and extremely frank and honest and upfront in all his dealings, and I respect that, chat. I respect that a lot, my friends. I really enjoy Monty. He's by far my favorite character in Baldur's Gate 1. His class is great, his race is great, his stat spread is quite decent, his proficiencies are solid, and you have an enormous amount of flexibility and customization for him. When I'm typically playing Monty, I'm going to be giving him Drizzt's armor, which will allow him to stealth while still giving him good AC. We'll give him the short sword of backstabbing from Baldur's Gate City, or the Whistler until then. I'll give him the Sling +1 from Baraghost early on. Later on, I'll give him the Dead Shot later after we get 2 points into bows. And then I'll just use him. Like I said, we'll go in and open up with a backstab, run to the back line and start shooting shit down. Maybe drink a stealth pot, or and go for another backstab, maybe go in stealth after getting a few arrows off and one-shotting somebody. Monty's just a really solid companion. I like him a lot. You don't have to take him and Xzar together, although I do like to have them together because of their stupid banter and dumb shit, but you don't have to take them together if you don't want to. I really can't say enough good things about Monty. I love him to death. He's my favorite companion in PG1 by far. I am still butthurt to this day over how they did him in Baldur's Gate 2, but it is what it is at the end of the day. 10 out of 10 companion, S tier all the way, very solid. But Dev, he only has 15 cons, so his saving throw. I don't care. I really, truly, honestly don't care. Monty is flexible in the ways I want him to be flexible in. Obviously, if he had 18 or 19 con, he would be better. He'd be better if he had 19 in all his stats. Yeah, no shit. But the way I want to play Monty, you can absolutely play him as. The way I want to play Minsc and Kivan, you fucking can't. So, that's just the way it is. Up next, we have Quayle. Quayle also has one of the worst stat spreads in the game. It's actually hilarious. Quayle is a B-tier cleric illusionist. The reason we rate him B-tier is because you don't really get Quayle until Baldur's Gate City, which is tragic. If you do move him with the mods, but the tweak pack will... Oh, excuse me, Monty you meet right outside of Candlekeep. I forgot to say where you meet these people, but I think you guys know where you meet Monty and Minsc. Let's be honest here. Quayle you meet outside Baldur's Gate City, or if you're using the tweak or one of the other mods, it will move him to the Circus at Nashkel. He has 8 strength, 16 dex. The strength is whatever. Dex is decent, but I mean, you know, it's not going to save him. He's going to be naked if you want him to cast spells, so just like all the other wizards, he's going to die in 2 seconds, even more so because he has 11 constitution, unlike Edwin and Dynaheir and Imoen, should you dual class her. 17 int, which is totally irrelevant because it doesn't affect anything. His wisdom is 10, which is tragic because he's a cleric, which means he's not going to get any fucking bonuses to spells. And then 6 charisma, one of the lowest in the game. Lower than Monty's, by the way. Monty is more charismatic than Quayle, and that's fucking saying something, dudes. Like, I think this is actually the lowest in the game. I think Tiax's Ghoul might have higher charisma than Quayle. But again, charisma doesn't really fucking matter. When I play Quayle, he is usually a wand monkey, and that's basically it. That is the only time I'll ever pick him up. Either we have had an absolutely horrific disaster in Cloakwood where 90% of my party is dead and I need some wand monkeys to finish the game, or I'm just really, really bored and want to pick him up because I like his death sound. When Quayle yells, "Oh dear!" it always cracks me up for no fucking reason. So that is the best part of Quayle by far. As far as his spells and abilities go, you're still going to play him just like you'd play anything else. Any other cleric or wizard, you're going to be giving him sleep spells, mirror image, web. You can't use skull trap because he's an illusionist, but you can give him fireball, haste, you know, the goodies, the typical goodies. He won't get level 5 spells because he's a multi-class, which sucks. Excuse me. So no cloud kill, no I can't stop burping, I'm so sorry. No cloud kill, no chaos, which is a shame, but he will get some cleric spells as well. So you can hit people with command, you can hit them with hold person, silence, etc, etc, etc. I have a very low opinion of Quayle. By the time you get him in Baldur's Gate City, you absolutely do not need him for anything other than wand monkeying. And if that's what you're going to use him for, he's perfectly serviceable for it, and that's why he's a B tier. But if you do move him to the circus and you pick him early, he's serviceable, but like, I mean, so is Garrick and Eldoth, you know what I mean? Like, they're technically serviceable too. There's no companion in this game that I think is not viable. Every single companion, no matter how shitty they are viable. But there are definitely some better than others, and Quayle is definitely towards the bottom of the list. I think that cleric mages are extremely overrated. I think they take way too fucking long to level. Baldur's Gate 2 especially, Aerie takes a long ass time to level. Once she gets going and throwing a ball, she is great, but until then, she is whatever. That penalty for multi-classing in BG1 isn't as obscenely serious as it is in Baldur's Gate 2, but it is still noticeable at times when everyone else is doing level 3 spells, and you're going to be sitting there with your dick in hand for a long time with level 2 spells. It definitely sucks. Do not take this man as your only cleric. Do not take this man as your only wizard, and he will work in your party just fine. If you are relying on him for everything, you will notice it very shortly that he is not up to par, unfortunately. So, B tier companion. Even if you get him earlier, I don't think I would still rate him higher than B tier, because there are better thieves, or excuse me, there are better clerics, and there are better wizards. And being half as good of a cleric, half as good of a wizard is not as good as having one good cleric, one good wizard, in my opinion. Up next we have Safana. Safana is a human female thief, chaotic neutral. You can find her at the lighthouse. She wants you to go inside the cave where the sirens are and the flesh golems to loot the treasure. She has 13 strength, which is pretty crappy. 17 dex is decent. Low con, unfortunately, 10. 16 int, which does absolutely nothing for you unless you give her the int tome, which will then allow her to dual class into a wizard. We already talked about why that's a terrible idea with Imoen, and it's much worse for her because she doesn't get that tome until you're at Baldur's Gate City, which is tragic. 9 wisdom, which is whatever, but just like Ajantis we were talking about earlier, she has 17 charisma. You give her the dryad or nymph cloak. I don't know why I keep calling it the dryad cloak. It's a nymph cloak. You give her the nymph cloak, and now she has 19 charisma, which, again, the same thing we talked about Ajantis. There are obvious benefits to having that. I do not ever pick up Safana unless all my thieves are dead. I will typically, for a thief, I will take Monty in my runs. I will occasionally take Tiax, assuming I have him moved out of Baldur's Gate City. Maybe I'll make my own thief. If I have NPCs moved, it's going to be Tiax, Alora, or Monty. One of those 3. If I don't have NPCs moved, it's Monty every fucking time. Monty is way better, way more fun to play, way better stat spread. I mean, there's really no reason to ever, unfortunately, take Safana or Imoen unless you're out of thieves. And even then, I would still probably take Shar-Teel and dual class her to a thief, which we'll talk about in just a second here. However, if you want to take Safana for personal reasons, maybe you like Booba and are a Booba enthusiast, nothing wrong with that, to each their own. Maybe you like her voice, whatever makes you happy. You have Safana in your party, you want to take her, what do I do now? She does have a special ability. Safana will blow a kiss at somebody in Enhanced Edition. I thought in the original game it was just a straight up charm person. I don't think she blew kisses in the original Baldur's Gate, but she does a kissy sound in Enhanced Edition. I believe the spell is still identical to charm person, so enemies get a bonus to save, and then if they fail their save, they get charmed. Nice. Having charm person as an innate ability is decent. It's not particularly amazing, but it's definitely decent. Oh, I'm so sorry. Quayle comes with invisibility as an innate ability. He can cast that on himself only for a shorter duration than regular invisibility. My apologies, forgot to mention that. It's okay. By the time you get it, who cares? So if you were going to play Safana, get her the stealth equipment so she can stealth and move around, disarm traps. She has a decent amount of open locks and find traps already, so if that's what you want to steer her into, I recommend it. If you want to make her into a stealth assassin, because it's like she's holding a dagger, right? She looks like an assassin, but her starting stats are not geared towards someone who's doing backstabbing, man. It is really, really not the case. If you want to dump every point to stealth and buy her the armor and the boots, you can kind of make it work, but then her strength score is only 13. And while Alora has her rabbit's foot to make up for her dog shit strength score, Safana really doesn't have anything going for her in that regard. And don't forget, if you are a regular thief, you cannot use the strength gloves out of Baldur's Gate City. You can still use the belt from Rasaad's quest, but again, you don't get that until quite late too. So it's up to you. If I'm playing Safana, she's just going to be your typical token thief. She's going to walk up the traps, disarm them, she's going to open boxes, and the rest of the time she's going to be sitting in the back with the best bow and arrows I can give her. Excuse me. The best bow I could give her, and okay arrows, because I'm giving the best arrows to one of my actual archers, not fucking Safana. Okay. If you need to pick her up, she's perfectly serviceable, B tier, but she's not great. Up next is Shar-Teel. Shar-Teel is A tier for a couple reasons. Her stat spread is almost good, She has 1858 strength, which is good, 17 dex, which is good, con is 9, which is trash, and the other 3 stats are completely irrelevant. So Safana will have a fucked up stat spread in Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. She'll have a point in longsword, dagger, and 2 weapon style. I don't know why Beamdog did this, but they did. In the original game, she doesn't have points in 2 weapon style because obviously you couldn't dual wield in the original Baldur's Gate. So her points are a lot better spent. You could actually get Grand Mastery on Shar-Teel, I think, in the original game if you dual classed at the right time and did some other quirky, fun shenanigans, which is actually cool and interesting to me. Obviously, it doesn't apply to the Enhanced Edition here. You can give her 2 points in longbow and turn her into a very decent archer with 17 dex and 18 strength. It means just like Kivan, she can use a comp bow, which means you can give the dead shot to Coran or Khalid or to somebody else. Her constitution is terrible, which is really tragic. You could drink fortitude for the important fights like Saravok, maybe Ducal Palace and stuff, but the 9 con really hinders her. Just like with Minsc, you really don't want her to go into melee ever. However, unlike Minsc, you can dual class her into a thief. And with 17 dex, her thieving skills are actually going to be fairly fucking decent. She can also then put points into bows if you want to still turn her into an archer. You can kind of turn her into a backstabber because you're able to dual class and use her so damn early. But again, with that 9 con, like, don't forget, Alora has the rabbit's foot, so her con being low doesn't matter. Monty has decent con. Safana does not have decent con. Shar-Teel does not have decent con. So when you're going in for a backstab, you kind of got to be careful. However, unlike Safana, who can't use a hat unless you're using the rogue rebalancing, Shar-Teel can actually wear a helmet because she's dual classing from a fighter. And once you get your fighter at those levels back, you can actually slap that helmet on your head, which is quite effective and useful in preventing critical hits, which is nice. So, if you want to turn her into a backstabber, you can. I personally don't recommend it. If you want Safana, or Shar-Teel, God, Safana and Shar-Teel. This is so confusing now, my apologies. If you want to use Shar-Teel, you absolutely can. As a backstabber, you can, but I would recommend just keeping her as an archer because she can use the comp bow. She has good dex, and if you want to turn her into a thief, you absolutely can. Don't forget, after she gets her fighter levels back, she can still use comp bow. So that is something that's actually quite nice to have. Her Thaco is going to be a little worse because she's been dual class to a thief, but she is still very serviceable in that regard. To get Safana, or oh my fucking lord, to get Shar-Teel, you have to have a male member in your party challenge her to a fight. Once you beat her in the fight, she'll then join your party. If you're a party of women, she won't join. Yeah, basically it. The other cool thing about Shar-Teel is she is Angelo's daughter. So if you get thrown in prison in Baldur's Gate, Angelo will come and release you as a one-off favor to his daughter, which I thought was cool. And I think she says something too when you're killing her father in the NPC project, but I don't think that's actually in the base original game. So all in all, Safana A tier, just like some other characters in the game. She is quite flexible in good ways, and it's nice. Did I say Shar-Teel or Safana again? I love everything, dude, honestly. I just love everything. Sorry for that, I keep misspeaking. Alright, next group here. First up is Skie. Skie is absolute shit tier, C tier all the way. Skie has 11 strength, 18 dex, 15 con, 15 int, 8 wisdom, and 13 charisma. Now, one quick glance, you look at Skie and you're like, I mean, that's not that much worse than Imoen, right? Like, she has 18 dex, she's got 1 con lower than Imoen, so that's tragic. So she doesn't, you know, get an extra HP per level, but her strength and other shit's not bad, right? She's totally serviceable, right? Sure, the problem is, unlike the other companions who can get moved with mods, Skie is still stuck in fucking Baldur's Gate City. On top of that, her stat score is actually kind of shit. She's got a couple points in open locks, find traps, pickpockets, move silently, and hide in shadows. Well, you notice that most thieves are kind of specialized, like Safana has a lot of points in find traps, open locks. Monty has a lot of points in stealth because he's a halfling on top of it. Alora has a lot of points in open locks and pickpockets while still gets decent stealth because she's a halfling. Skie has all her points kind of spread down the line, which means she sucks at everything, which is really tragic. And once you get her, she's already got a decent amount of XP. She's already got a few levels because she's an NPC meant to be recruited in Baldur's Gate City, which means you now have very little control over where she puts her thieving abilities, and you have to play with her quite a bit to have anything at a decent, respectable level, which is a fucking shame. On top of that, she does not have any special abilities, unlike Imoen, who can dual class to a wizard. Safana has her Kiss. Monty is an awesome class. Tiax is part cleric and can summon a Ghast. Skie doesn't have anything. What Skie has is the ability to rob her father, Duke Entar Silvershield, and blackmail somebody for 1,000 gold a day. And the problem is, by the time you get to Baldur's Gate City, you don't really give a shit about gold. Gold really, truly doesn't fucking matter. But let's say you need the gold. Okay, fine, you're able to get a little bit of gold. You can't do it forever. You can only do it a certain number of times before they call the police, and then you have to run and blah, blah, blah. The other thing is you need to have Eldoth with you, and this is the big kick in the balls. You have to take Eldoth with you. I didn't even know Skie was a companion, I would say, for at least 2 months of playing Baldur's Gate 1, until I found out online that you could actually take Skie and she was a companion. Because I skipped Eldoth's dialogue. I was like, I'm not trusting this dude as far as I can throw him. He's slimy. I could see the grease in his hair. Like, you knew not to trust Eldoth. I'm done with this dude. I'm out. See you later. Bye, buddy. And so I didn't even know about that shit until way late. If you don't have Eldoth with you, Skie will be like, who the fuck are you? Why the fuck are you in my house? Get out right now, I'm calling the guards. And then she just disappears. And then you can't get Skie ever, right? So you have to take Eldoth, then you have to pick up Skie. And we already talked about why taking Eldoth sucks. But like, even if you take Eldoth to get Skie, it's like, what's the point, bro? Getting a thief this late in the game, just like with Alora and Tiax, like in the base game, like, they better be really fucking worth it. Alora is worth it. Tiax is worth it. Skie is not, unless you just really like her voice. Every single time you tell Skie to do anything, she whines. Oh, I broke a nail. Oh, I mussed my hair. Ew, I want to take a shower. It's so hot. Like, I'm all hot and sweaty and gross. Ew, I look like a poor person right now. This is just gross. Oh, don't talk to me, peasant. She doesn't have all those lines, but that's basically the impression you get of Skie, right? Let's be honest here. Her stats are whatever. Her stats are decent. Her thieving scores are the real tragedy, in my opinion. And again, the fact that you have to take Eldoth to get her, to pick her up, like, there's really no saving. There's no save for Skie. She's fucking terrible. Absolutely C tier all the way. If you insisted on playing her, you could arguably make her into a backstabber if you dump every single point into stealth that you're gonna get for the rest of the game. But even then, she's got 11 strength. She can't use the gloves. You're gonna have to give her a Rasaad belt. I mean, there's just so many better choices, you know? If you want a backstabber, take Alora, take Monty, take Coran. If you want an archer, every single one of those people I just mentioned are better. If you want a thief mage, then you can take Safana or Imoen. Like, what exactly does Skie have going for her that nobody else has? And the answer is nothing. The answer is absolutely nothing. She doesn't even share something that other thieves have going for them. And that's kind of tragic. Considering how long it takes to get her and how specialized it is you have to be to get her, by getting Eldoth, by talking to her, and yeah, kind of a shame. Kind of a fucking shame. Up next is Tiax. Tiax is A tier. Even though you get him super late, I still have him listed as A tier. Same with Alora. He would be higher if you could get him early. With our current set of mods, you can acquire Tiax very early. You can pick him up in Baraghost and Feldpost Inn. His stat spread is okay. He has 9 strength, 16 dex, 16 con. So he's going to have max HP per level with 16 con, which is great. His dexterity is okay. And his int, wisdom, and charisma don't really matter, although having low wisdom means he's not going to have extra low-level cleric spells, which is kind of a shame. His stat spread, because you get him so much earlier than Skie, will leave you more options for specialization if you want to go into stealth for backstab, which I really don't recommend as a cleric, but you can. I typically will dump all my points for Tiax into open locks and find traps, assuming I'm playing with a mod that acquires him early. For cleric spells, you're going to be doing the same thing you do with all the others. You're going to be giving him command, hold person, silence, stuff like that. But what makes Tiax really special compared to the other NPCs in this game is, one, he has a pipe, which is cool. You know, he's got like +3 charisma just from smoking that pipe and that pimp pad he's got on his head. But most importantly, he can summon a ghast. Not a ghoul, but a ghast. He can basically summon Korax. And anyone who's done Basilisk Cheese knows how powerful Korax is. Korax is undead, just like the Dreadwolf that Faldorn can summon. It has an enormous amount of immunities. However, unlike the Dreadwolf, a ghast also has multiple attacks per round, fairly decent THAC0, and I wouldn't say is tanky, but will live for more than 1 or 2 hits, with the exception of like Ogre Berserkers and Saravok and enemies with really, really high strength score. And on top of that, every single time you get hit by a ghast, you have to save or get stunned. And when you're stunned, every single attack lands. This is really, really nice to have. Now, I talked about this before at length on stream, saying that that's what clerics do anyways. They have command, they have hold person. Their job is to stun people so you can murder them with impunity, and the ghast will allow you to do that even more so. You can only summon it once per day, but again, with how often you're resting in Baldur's Gate 1 and how you can spread that around, the summon ghast is actually really, 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 really useful. At times. Again, at times. Sometimes it will die instantly and do absolutely nothing. Sometimes it will get all its attacks off and your enemies will save every single time and it does absolutely fucking nothing. Sometimes when one of your party members will get charmed and your ghast will turn around and attack them because your ghast is stupid as hell, and it will kill your own teammates because you keep telling your ghast not to do so, but your ghast doesn't give a fuck and does what it wants, and that's annoying as shit too. But generally speaking, the ghast is a very useful, very powerful ability, and definitely adds on to the fact that as a cleric, you're already charming, commanding, holding. Getting that extra stun and CC so your fighters can kill shit with impunity is very, very nice to have. And on top of that, he's also a thief who can do everything you want a thief to do. If you want him to backstab, unlike Monty, unlike Alora, he's going to struggle with it. He's a gnome, so his stats aren't as designed for backstabbing as the halflings, but you can still make it work if you really, really try at it, as you are able to cast cleric spells to boost his strength, and you can boost his damage that way, but I really wouldn't recommend it. When I'm playing Tiax, I'm going to give him the Onkeg armor. His strength is low, so you can't give him like some really good armor. So give him the Onkeg armor, give him a small shield, and give him a sling, and just have him range from the back, throw out his cleric spells, let the ghast do the dirty work, and open locks and find traps as best you can, and easy shit. Definitely very, very solid. I don't think he's S tier. Even if you recruit him early, I'm not sure he's worthy of being S tier, but he's definitely solid, and his personality is great too. Everyone loves TX. Up next is Viconia. Viconia is S tier, easily the best cleric in the game. Her stat spread is lacking for Constitution, but okay for the others. Strength doesn't matter as much for clerics, because as a pure cleric, because you can just go and slap the Onkeg plate on them, and anyone can wear Onkeg plate. Her dex is very high, means she'll get some extra AC there, so with the Onkeg plate and the dex where it is, you don't have to worry about Vicky getting shot by missiles, unless it's like the Black Talons or maybe Skeletal Warriors, something like that. Her con is terrible, which is tragic, so she's not going to get any bonus HP per level. Her int is whatever. Her wisdom is exceptional, 18 from using the Baldur's Gate 2 numbers. Her original BG1 numbers are a little bit less, but she got buffed for Baldur's Gate 2, same with Jaheira, and 14 charisma. Which this means is she's going to have some extra spells per level. She's also going to come with an enormous amount of magic resistance, 65. If you're using the original Baldur's Gate, this is only 50. If you're playing the original Baldur's Gate, this works for friendly spells too. You can drink a healing potion and Vicky will resist the healing potion, which is absolutely hilarious. Very unfun. Magic resistance in BG1 was very much the definition of a double-edged sword. In Baldur's Gate 2, magic resistance will only block unfriendly spells, making it far, far stronger. You can give her the Balduran cloak from Baldur's Gate City, and now Vicky is sitting on fucking 80 magic resistance, which is just ludicrously insane. Or you can have her pop one of the potions of magic resistance, and then Vicky is literally immune to magic. Just straight up immune to magic. 100 plus resistance, unless the spell ignores MR, and there are very, very few spells that ignore MR in Baldur's Gate 1. She's just straight up immune to magic, which is insane. On top of that, she has more extra cleric spells than any other because of her high wisdom score. She is very hard to hit because of her dexterity. I mean, what more do you want out of your cleric companion? You want somebody who's able to cast as many spells as possible. You want somebody who looks cute, and she doesn't. Too bad. And you want somebody to be as tanky as possible. And she does that, aside from the fact that her constitution is abysmal. But again, her magic resistance more than makes up for that. She eats a magic missile, she might take 0 damage. She eats an acid arrow, might take 0 damage. And to be fair, if she gets hit by a fireball or lightning bolt, she might die instantly. It does happen. Magic resistance isn't guaranteed. It's not flat damage reduction like hardiness is, unfortunately. But generally speaking, Vicky is a hell of a lot tankier than Branwen, a hell of a lot tankier than Tiax, and definitely a hell of a lot tankier than Quayle. So if you need a cleric, Vicky is definitely the best in the game for sure. S tier all the way. Like I said, give her Ankh Egg Plate, give her a sling, and she can just sit in the back line and you don't have to worry about her dying, generally speaking. Up next, we have Xan. Xan's also one of my favorite companions. He is a male elf enchanter. He has 13 strength, 16 dex, terrible constitution of 7, 17 int, 14 wisdom, and 16 charisma. Unfortunately, as you can see, his stat spread's a little heavy-handed towards the bottom stats, which are basically irrelevant, which is unfortunate. Xan is an enchanter, which means he is incapable of using evocation spells. So no magic missile, no fireball. However, he gets a bonus to all enchantment spells. And there's actually quite a few enchantment spells in BG1, all of which are actually quite good. Charm, Dire Charm, Domination, Chaos, and Confusion are all enchantment spells. All of them are very powerful. Most of them, with the exception of like Charm Person, have save penalties already on top of them, which means the additional save penalty you get from being an enchanter means it is very, very hard for enemies to save versus Xan. It is very likely that when he throws a Chaos into the room, everybody gets hit. When he tries to cast Dire Charm, that dude's getting fucking charmed, etc., etc. And this kind of makes up for his dogshit constitution. On top of it, he gets a very cool dagger that you'll find in Molahay's Lair. This is where you recruit him in Nashkel Mines. I forgot to mention, Vicky, you acquire east of the friendly arm unless you have a mod which will move her southwest of Baragos. So, Xan has a dagger that gives him... the dagger does 1d8 plus 3 damage and gives him a fire shield that gives him 50% fire resistance, which is kind of fucking cool. It looks like a giant flaming blue sword, which is awesome. I will typically end up meleeing with Xan all the time. I'll hit enemies with a sleep or charm them, and then I'll just have Xan wail on them, knowing full well that they can't fight back because they're unconscious or charmed or whatever, which is hilarious to me because a dude with 7 constitution should not be in fucking melee, but you can tell Xan to do anything you want because, you know, whatever. Also, once you get Stone Skin, it's a lot more fun to play with. I like Xan. He is extremely depressing with his personality, talking about how convinced he is that the party is going to die and we're all going to fucking die and we're all doomed, which is super hilarious to me. Also, if you have Xan in the party, most party conflicts will not end in bloodshed. Instead of people killing each other, Xan will talk them down. I'm not entirely sure why this was added, but it is kind of amusing. So you can keep him as just a way to like keep people together and happy. Aside from the people who just refuse to be in the party together, like Edwin and Neera, who will just immediately give you a dialogue, choose one or the other. Xan will be able to keep everybody happy, which is amusing. And again, the enchantment spells in BG1 are quite good. In Baldur's Gate 2, there are no enchantment spells above level 5. Literally 0. 0 spells above level 5. But in BG1, the enchantment spells are very strong. Again, charms, confusion, chaos, domination. They are very, very strong spells. And giving an extra save penalty on those is just very powerful. So, A-tier companion, not particularly amazing, but definitely fun. If you pick him up, give him your charm spells, give him Hold Person, because that's an enchantment school, and you will definitely see results. Up next, we have Xzar. Xzar is a lot of people's favorite companion because he's crazy. I personally like Monty better, but Xzar is pretty fun too. Xzar has an unfortunate stat spread. 14 strength, 16 dex, 10 con, 11 int, 17 int, 16 wisdom, and 10 charisma. If you give Xzar one of the wisdom books, you can dual class him to a cleric, which is kind of interesting. I have never done so, and I still don't understand why people do so, but if you want to, You absolutely can't do that. Because he's a necromancer, he loses illusion school, which is really painful. Because one of the most important spells for a wizard early on in Baldur's Gate 2, or really from the beginning to the end of the game of BG1, is Mirror Image, and Xzar can't cast that. However, he does get a bonus to Horror, which is a fairly common low-level spell in Baldur's Gate, and he does get a bonus to Skull Trap, which is also the most common damage spell in Baldur's Gate 1, aside from, like, maybe Magic Missile. So those two things are quite nice. In my opinion, not good enough to make up for losing Mirror Image. In Baldur's Gate 2, being a Necromancer is quite good because you get a bonus for Horrid Wilting, which is without a doubt the best damage dealing spell in BG2. You could argue that Incendiary Cloud does more damage, and that's true, but then you can hit your own fucking party. Horrid Wilting's enemies only, which is very nice. So, being a Necromancer in Baldur's Gate 2, a lot better because Mirror Image doesn't matter as much. In BG1, you don't get Stone Skin for a long time. Shield will help you a little bit against archers, but it's not going to save you. Mirror Image is really the only way that you can be sure you're not going to die instantly to archer fire. And Xzar doesn't get that, which sucks. He does come with Monty, as we talked about before. Almost every pair can be split very effectively. Xzar will have some special dialogue with the Zents in Baldur's Gate City, along with the Zent Informant and the Zents inside Sorcerer's Sundries. So if you're interested in stuff like that, he does have some special lines and dialogue for that, which is cool. His personality is, in my opinion, enjoyable and funny, although his battle cry, just like Minsc, is definitely grating because it's so long. I am become death, destroyer of worlds. I have heard way too many times, so that kind of annoys me. However, it is always hilarious if you have Monty and Xzar in the party. Whenever one of them dies, the other will yell something hilarious about laughing that they died, which I always enjoyed. I like Xzar personally. I think that if I were to rate him, it would be slightly below Xan, slightly below Edwin, and slightly below Dynaheir. But I wouldn't actually put him in B tier just because of it. I'm still going to keep him A tier. But compared to the other specialist wizards, you do have to keep in mind that losing Mirror Image is definitely devastating. Losing Magic Missile and Fireball and Xan, it's whatever. Losing Mirror Image is pretty rough. Definitely rough. But still not enough to stop him from being A tier in my opinion. And again, all the wizards, there's nothing special for equipment. The best robe you can get, the best boots, best cloak, and those are the only things you can do to stop them from dying to archer or fire, and that's basically it. There's really not a lot of equipment options for BG1, unfortunately. Alright, that's going to be it for this group, and now we're on to the very last companion and the Enhanced Edition companions. Which is good because my throat is completely fucked. Alright, so last regular Baldur's Gate companion, we have Yeslick. Yeslick is a Dwarven Fighter Cleric, lawful good, who you find in the Cloakwood Mines. He has 15 Strength, 12 Dex, 17 Con, 7 Int, 16 Wisdom, and 10 Charisma, with a special Dispel Magic innate ability. In the original Baldur's Gate, there is no save for his Dispel Magic, making it extremely powerful. The Enhanced Edition, it functions just like a regular Dispel Magic, not nearly as good, but still useful. It's nice to have a Dispel Magic and send that at enemies because that is a spell you will not have unless you're a sorcerer before Baldur's Gate City, which is cool. As far as the stats go, he's a bit lacking in Dex. You can obviously fix that with the Brawling Gloves, but that means your tank isn't going to have the Brawling Gloves, which is kind of tragic. And if you're using, like, Jaheira, it doesn't matter so much because she doesn't need the gloves, and then, yes, they can pick him up. His Constitution is decent. As a midget, he does enjoy the saving throw bonuses of shorty saves. He doesn't have as high as Kagain's, but still quite decent with 17 Con. As a cleric, he will have access to draw upon Holy Might, along with the other fun cleric spells like Command, Hold Person, Silence, etc., etc. So you can use that to boost his stats a little bit more, which will give him extra HP with Constitution, and a little bit slightly higher Dex, although not enough to actually make a difference. I typically don't ever play with Yeslick, and mostly, again, because, just like the other NPCs we talked about, you acquire him so damn late in the game. He is basically a Baldur's Gate City NPC by the time you acquire him. He's on the second, arguably the first level of the Cloakwood Mine, all the way at the end, after the first wizard encounter and all the bandits in that room, in the trapped room. But you could also look at it from the perspective where You literally get him just before Dynaheir, is another way of looking at it, unfortunately, and that's typically how I look at it. By the time you get him, you have your party already. You have 6 people in your party. They're decently geared. They have their stats where you want them, and replacing somebody for Yeslick is just not really viable. It's not really something you're interested in. You can, excuse me, I shouldn't say viable. It is absolutely viable. You can kick everybody out of your party, give Yeslick a high five, and start dancing together naked into Beorn's mind if you want to. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? But it's going to make your party weaker by dropping somebody for Yeslick at this stage. It really is. And that's a shame, because I like dwarf companions. Yeslick's stats are okay. His special ability is useful. His class is quite decent. Fighter Cleric is a good class to have for sure. I would definitely take Yeslick over Branwen. Probably not over Vicky. But, yeah. It's kind of a shame, just, again, where he is. As far as armor goes, if you want to make him a frontliner, you want to give him the best armor you can. Full plate, brawling gloves to make up for his abysmal dex. For spells, I would definitely give him drop on Holy Might right here. Giving him extra constitution means he's going to get extra hit points for the fight. He comes with 2 points in Warhammer and Sling, so you can give him a Shadina if you want to. You can start working on flails, but you're going to have a hard time actually getting 2 points in flails on him because of the way the multi-class works. So Monty is a multi-class that you acquire at level 1, so it's absolutely possible for you to get bows somewhere midway through Baldur's Gate, but with getting that on Yeslick is much more challenging. So you're probably going to be forced to be either using a sling or using a Shadina, and a Shadina just isn't as good as the other weapons, unfortunately, because that's just the way the game is designed. All in all, I put Yeslick as B tier. If you could acquire him a little bit earlier, I would definitely move him up to A tier, but because of his positioning and because of some of the other problems we have there with the XP and the way the proficiency system works, I have to leave him at B tier. But he's still a very solid companion. Like I said, give him some good plate, give him a good hammer, a good shield, drop on Holy Might, and he can go in there and smack with the best of them. He's going to have enough HP to actually be decent, just like Jaheira. Alright, up for our first BG Enhanced Edition only companion, we have Baeloth, S tier all the way. Arguably the best companion in Baldur's Gate 1 now. Possibly tied with Kagain for being the best NPC companion in Baldur's Gate 1. His stat score is quite decent. His dex is a little low. His con's great, and that's all you really care about for a wizard. But the thing that's most broken about Baeloth is the fact that he is a sorcerer, which means he gets the spell slots based on, unlike wizards who have to memorize scrolls, Baeloth is the only sorcerer in the game, which means every time he gains a level and unlocks a new spell, you get to pick from any spell in the game, and he permanently unlocks that and can cast it a couple times a day, which means as soon as he can get level 4 spells, he can learn Stone Skin. As soon as he gets level 3 spells, he can get Melt's Minute Meteors if that's what you want. He can get AoE Invisibility. Spells you normally can't get, you can unlock as a sorcerer immediately upon being able to cast it, which is very powerful. On top of that, he comes with a stupid ring, which gives him additional spells per level, which is ridiculous. The Thaco and damage versus genies is irrelevant. There are 0 genies in BG1, and the create a random gem or damage the wielder once per day. I've used this a million times. It has never worked. As far as I know, it just doesn't work, period. But the extra 3 spells for first, second, and third level is disgusting. The fact that he comes with all these spells at level 1, 2, and 3 is just insane. Haste, Mirror Image, Fireball, Dispel Magic, Detect Invis, Acid Arrow, Web, Magic Missile. The only thing this dude's missing is Sleep. That is the only spell he's missing that you're like, this is a really great spell, I want to use it and have it. That's the only one he doesn't have. Like, it's gross. On top of that, again, he has the best HP you can get of 16. His dex is whatever, but he also comes with a Robe of the Evil Archmagus, which is, again, the best armor you can get for a wizard. 5 AC, 1 save, 5% MR. All he needs now is the boots and the cloak, and this dude's basically never going to get hit by Archer Fire again, which is insane. On top of that, he also has Vicky's MR, although he actually has a little bit less. He has 50. Obviously, the 55 there, the extra 5 is coming from his armor. So he also can be immune to spells. He pops 1 potion of magic resistance. He is now completely immune to all magic that does not ignore MR, which is insane. When he gets hit by an acid arrow, sometimes he'll just resist the whole thing, resist an entire magic missile. It's just magic resistance is insanely powerful. And he gets it. In addition to also having more spells than a character-made sorcerer. I mean, it's just, again, just like Edwin, you can't make a conjurer better than Edwin. You can't make a sorcerer better than Baeloth. You just can't. It's just the way it is. For BG1 at least. And for that reason, he's basically just S tier. There's nothing you can do about it. Again, I would say he's tied with Kagain for the best NPC in Baldur's Gate 1. Kagain I rate very highly because of his flexibility and for being the best tank in the game. Baeloth is arguably the best mage in the game. He can't learn level 5 spells, which sucks, which means no cloud kill, no chaos. But you don't get those till the very end of the game anyways. So you could argue that Edwin is very slightly ahead, or maybe you could argue that they're on par. Baeloth gets this, Edwin gets that. Either way, extremely solid companion. Definitely the best enhanced edition companion in the game, bar none. S tier all the way. Up next, we have Dorn, who I hate for a variety of reasons. Dorn is a male half-orc blackguard, 19 strength, so the highest strength of any NPC in the game, 16 dexterity, which is decent, 14 con, which is fucking terrible, 10 int, 15 wisdom, and 16 charisma. Blackguards get a couple useful abilities. They get a reverse lay on hands that drains HP, which is nice. He gets immune to level drain and fear, which is nice. The fear is good. Level drain doesn't happen at all in BG1, so that's whatever. Turning undead as a paladin the same level, that doesn't do shit. The poison got nerfed into the ground because people thought it was too overpowered, so that's whatever. What I look at when I see Dorn is I see someone who's very good at killing things that are already going to die and very squishy compared to every other melee in this game, which is tragic. Because what you do for Baldur's Gate 1 is you don't walk up to ogre berserkers and beat them up. You don't walk up to ogrillions and beat them up. You don't walk up to demons and beat them up. You don't walk up to fucking cultist guards, Dracis, Saravok. You don't go toe-to-toe with enemies in this game. Unless they're like X-Vards, right? You're gonna cast Sleep, you're gonna cast Color Spray, you're gonna cast Hold Person, you're gonna cast Charm, you're gonna cast Web, you're gonna use a million of your crowd control abilities, and then you're gonna beat them to death while they're unconscious or incapable of fighting back. Because if you don't, you're gonna fucking die. That's just the way it is. Enemies will have more hit points than you, they'll have more Thaco than you, or I should say better Thaco than you, they're gonna have more attacks per round than you, and they're gonna fucking beat the shit out of you because they do double damage because it's on insane double damage difficulty. So the 19 strength that Dorn has is extremely overrated. Now if you're playing on story mode, 19 strength is great. On insane, it doesn't really do much because Kagain can kill somebody just as effectively as Dorn can when they're CC'd, right? Like, if there's a kobold asleep on the ground, Kagain hitting him twice with an axe, or Dorn hitting him once with a two-handed sword, like, it doesn't matter. The kobold still dies. You know what I mean? But when it comes to 50 kobolds shooting you with fire arrows, Kagain's gonna live a hell of a lot longer than Dorn will. Literally more than twice the HP, right? Dorn, level 6, 68 points. Kagain should be level 7 at that point. 7, maybe 8. Should be 7. Yeah, we'll have well over 100. Over 100 hit points. That's insane. That's insane, dude. Actually fucking insane. And that's really, really unfortunate. Because Dorn cannot tank. Just like Minsc has issues with tanky because his constitution is so shit. But Minsc has better con than Dorn. The only thing Dorn really has going for him is the ability that's not here right now. We level him up to see if it shows up here. There we go, yeah. Aura of Despair. At 6th level, this will give enemies a -2 penalty to hit and damage rolls, and a -2 penalty to armor class for 1 turn. I'm pretty sure... Actually, not 100% sure if this ignores MR. I'm pretty sure it does. Either way, in Baldur's Gate 1, it doesn't matter. This is always going to hit. Always gonna fucking hit, and that is nice. That is really, really nice. The penalty to AC, that's whatever, but -2 penalty to hit and damage, that is noticeable. Very, very, very fucking noticeable. So that alone makes him on par with Minsc. Then he has better strength. His dex is identical. He's got a couple other nice abilities. He has, along with the other Enhanced Edition NPCs, is a variety of quests, which give very good equipment. There's a necklace that gives bonuses to saves. Alberuin is one of the best weapons in the game. You get from Dorn's quest later on in Baldur's Gate City. You also get an Elven Chainmail, which is totally garbage and overrated. Don't ever take that and use that on your fighter mages. It's so trash. Just use a Robe of the Archmagi. But Alberuin is very, very good. It's a bastard sword that will hit any enemy in the game, including wolf wares. It has detect invisibility on it. It's very, very strong. Very, very strong. We'll talk about the other NPC items in just a second here. But his quests give you good rewards. And BG2 and Throne of Ball as well. But this is obviously just a guide for BG1. If I take Dorn, it's because I'm role-playing as Saruman, and I want to have an Uruk-hai orc in my party. Or it's because everybody else is fucking dead. And I'm down to, do I take Dorn or do I take Minsc? And it's like, I don't really know. They're both pretty terrible. Dorn will come with 2 points in two-handed sword and 2 points in two-handed weapon style. So if you do want to use a two-handed sword boy, Dorn has the points for it. Unlike Minsc, who only has points in two-handed sword, not two-handed weapon style. So he's more skilled at that. Going from 18 to 19 strength doesn't seem like a lot, but it is actually a big jump. So his damage in Thaco is going to be a lot higher. But again, most of the time you're attacking unconscious people anyway. So it's just like a win more stat. I would absolutely rather Dorn have 14 strength and 19 con than 19 strength and 14 con any day of the fucking week. That being said, he's totally viable, totally serviceable, either as an archer after you give him 2 points in longbows, or as a physical fighter, assuming you have a decent front line who can actually tank, and Dorn's attacking from either behind them or using sleep or hold or charm or all the other shit, in which case he works just fine. But he's definitely not at the top of the list for companions you should be going out of your way to get, because if you need him to tank, and there will be times where your spells miss and you need somebody to tank, Kagain, Khalid, Jaheira, Ajantis. Those are the 4 people capable of tanking in this game. Maybe Yeslick with some help. It's not Dorn. It's not Dorn, it's not Kivan, it's not Minsc. They're gonna die in 2 fucking seconds on insane difficulty. It's just the way it is. Alright, what do we have next here? Dorn is B tier, by the way, and you acquire him by talking to him in the Friendly Arm Inn, and then he'll have a special cutscene when you first go down to Nashkel. Up next is Neera. Neera is also B tier. I'd love to rate her lower, but unfortunately I can't because the items you get from her shit are so good. Her stats spread is pretty garbage. 11 strength, 17 dex, 14 con, 17 int, 10 wisdom, and 11 charisma. She's going to be getting less HP per level than Dynaheir and Edwin. Her dexterity is whatever. Again, that's not going to save her. She does have those really unfortunate bug eyes from Star Wars The Old Republic. If you ever go to the planet with the Killik hives, that's exactly what I see whenever I look at her. Just imagine her talking about the hive and the swarm and all that shit. It's very creepy and weird. She is a wild mage, which means every time you cast a spell, there's a chance she kills everybody, which is super fun in my opinion, especially in no reload runs. 10 out of 10. Her voice is atrocious. In my opinion, the worst voice in Baldur's Gate, bar none. Definitely nails on a chalkboard. However, her spells that she gets when she auto levels up are actually quite decent, getting a very good variety of spells that are quite useful. Melf's, protection from fire, etc, etc, etc. The spells she comes with, Reckless Geomer, Sleep, Magic Missile, Identify, Color Spray, Chromatic Orb, Burning Hands. These are all great spells. Level 2, she gets Mirror Image right away. Very, very solid shit in that regard. Very, very, very solid shit in that regard. She also comes with a gem bag, which is very, very handy. I forgot to talk about Dorn's weapon. It's just a +1 sword that gives you an extra +2 Thaco total if you killed somebody. So that's decent. It's not bad at all. Definitely better than a regular 2-handed sword. And Neera will come with a stick that every time you melee with it, there's a chance it hurts her or hurts the enemy for 1 fire damage. Who the hell cares? The gym bag is the only good equipment that she comes with, actually. As I said, the Wild Mage is very risky. Every single time you cast the spell, she has a chance of killing herself, killing your party. Or maybe the spell actually works and does something better. Maybe the spell casts twice, maybe it casts a double level, maybe she accidentally causes all enemies to be held. There's all sorts of fun things that happen with wild magic and wild wizards. I'm a big fan of wild mages. They are one of the best classes in Baldur's Gate 2. Extremely powerful. In BG1, however, they're absolutely a fucking liability. You have a massive array of wizards in BG1. You have Xan, you have Dynaheir, you have Xzar, you have Edwin, all of whom are specialist witches. Specialist mages. Did I say specialist witches? Holy shit. Specialist mages who get extra bonuses to spells, typically have a better stat spread as well. And then you have Baeloth on top of it, the sorcerer, who is absolutely better than Neera in every single way, shape, and form. It's hard to find room for Neera unless you just really like her as the quirky, fun, free spirit she is. Neera can never at any time be in a party with Edwin. They'll immediately have an issue. As soon as you invite both of them to the party, Edwin will walk up to you and demand that you kick one of them. So that is annoying. She doesn't have any other conflicts with anybody else as far as I know. That's basically all there is to it. As far as gearing and equipment, it's the same thing with all the other wizards. You want to give her sleep, you want to give her mirror image, you want to give her skull trap, haste, chaos, cloud kill, stone skin. The thing that makes Neera nice is that she gets an extra scroll of stone skin from her quest, and that is huge. Adoy's belt is completely worthless, by the way. For those who don't know, most spells in this game that are cast at you, you save her spell. The second most common is Savor's Death. The third most common is Breath. And then these two never happen ever. The only time you save Savor's Wand is on 2 of the wands in the game. And the only time you save Savor's Petrification or Polymorph is when a Basilisk is looking at you. If you cast Flesh to Stone, that is a Savor's spell. If you get hit by Prismatic Spray and have a chance to Petrify, that is a Savor's spell. Petrification and Polymorph does nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. Anytime you get hit by a polymorph spell, that is also a Savor's spell. I don't know why, but that is the way it's coded. So Adoy's belt is completely shit and useless. Does not help you in any way, shape, or form. If Adoy's belt gave you +5 to Savor's spell, it would be a god tier item, but it doesn't. So that's shit. However, the extra stone skin scroll you get that a Kandor drops is awesome, because then you can kick Neera from the group and get yourself a proper wizard and give them that stone skin scroll, and then they're going to be very, very happy and very, very useful. Because the only other place you can find one is on Mage Island in the Enhanced Edition. So that's good. But aside from that, again, I have a very low opinion of Neera. She is, without a doubt, the worst wizard in BG1. The only reason we take her is for the memes. Honestly, that's it. That being said, she can still be used as a wand monkey, and she is going to be better than Garrick and Eldoth. And she is fun to play with just because wild magic is hilarious. So for that reason, I'm leaving her at B tier. And now we come to the new worst NPC in the game, which is actually a coincidence because it's the last NPC on the list too. The worst NPC in BG1 and 2 is the late game powerhouse Rasaad, the human sun soul lawful good monk with a stat spread of 16, 16, 14, 11, 14, 14. Not only does he not have max strength, dexterity, or constitution, but his other stats suck ass as well. This man is incapable of wearing armor because he's a monk. He attacks with his fist with a dogshit Thaco, doing almost no damage whatsoever, and he still is not getting 10 hit points per level. And he doesn't have his dexterity maxed either, meaning it's even more likely he gets his head cut off because guess what? He can't wear a helmet because he's a monk. So unless you have rogue rebalancing or some other mod to help alleviate the monk horrific inadequacy, it is, this guy's pretty terrible. The problem with monk, as I talked about in the class guide, is that you are a shittier fighter in every way, shape, and form. You have less hit points, you are crittable, you do less damage, and yet somehow you're supposed to fill the same role of being a beefy physical damage dealer. And you are neither beefy nor good at dealing physical damage in BG1. Eventually you become a late game powerhouse, but this is BG1, so it's not happening. So if we look at his damage right now, Level 1 is a base THAC0 of 20, and his fist does 1d6, which is the equivalent of a club, by the way. A club. Just regular old club. Now, if we go and look at Dorn, for example, now Dorn, admittedly, is level 4. So his base THAC0 is 17 as opposed to 20. But Dorn is doing 1d10, plus 1, plus 2, plus 7. He's doing 12 to 21 damage. Rasaad's doing 2 to 7. And Dorn, let's go and undo the base THAC0. We'll have 15 THAC0 because of his strength and proficiencies. Dorn will also have 10 hit points. Rasaad has 8. Dorn wearing splint mail, right? Just basic bitch armor. This is not special. Has 2 AC. Rasaad with his magical Rasaad only boots, give him an extra 2 AC, has 5. He is worse in every way than Dorn, who I've already talked about at length for being inferior to other fighters in this game. And yet Dorn is miles ahead of Rasaad. Miles ahead of him. He has better armor, he has better HP. Again, we're just going to pretend he has 10 HP, not 40. He has better THAC0, 15 base, and his damage is 12 to 21. Guess what else Dorn has? That's right. He has more attacks per round too because he's specialized. Well, Rasaad gets abilities too, Dav. That's true. Let's take a look and see what abilities we get. Sun Soul Ray once per day. This is actually decent. This will go through enemy wizards' protections, so that's good. Flaming Fist once per day at level 5. Sun Soul Ray again once per day at level 8. And he'll get Greater Sun once per day at level 6, and then Greater Sun once per day at level 8. And that's it. You can't get any higher than that in BG1. The rest of the abilities don't fucking matter because they don't exist. So he'll get a Fire Shield at level 8, 2 Sun Soul Rays, and his fists do a little bit of extra fire damage. That's it. That is fucking it. Now, his AC will go down slightly over the course of BG1. His THAC0 will go down and get better, and his damage on his fist will get slightly better. But the fact is, a fighter at level 1 is better than a monk. A fighter at level 1 wearing equipment is better than a monk at max level on Baldur's Gate 1. I can have Kagain with full plate, a +2 axe, +2 shield, and compare that to Rasaad at max level in BG1, and Kagain is better than Rasaad. He's going to do more damage. He's going to have more AC. And there's nothing Rasaad can do about that. That's not Rasaad's fault, honestly. Like, even if Rasaad had 19, 19, 19, 19, he would still be shit. And there's that's not his fault. That's just the way the monk class is. The monk class was not designed for Baldur's Gate 1. It wasn't at all. I mean, honestly, it was poorly designed for Baldur's Gate 2 as well. But it's extremely noticeable and painful in BG1. So if you want to make Rasaad work, and I've taken Rasaad before and I will do so again. I'm currently taking him in my run right now. I'm going to give him the belt you get from his quest, which gives him 19 strength. That is very good. You can give him the gauntlets, which give him extra armor. Give him an extra 2 AC. That's decent. You can give him fortitude potions, which will give him 1 extra HP per level. That is good for the final fights, but you don't have a lot of those, so you kind of got to ration them out. And then you have to play Rasaad as a weaver, moving him into auto attack and then moving him out. And that takes a lot of it takes a lot of effort. If you're using rogue rebalancing, you can buy the hoods for Rasaad to make him immune to crits, and that helps big time, because in the original Enhanced Edition, monks are critable no matter what, and if you're playing on insane difficulty and walk up to a berserker, an 80 hit point Rasaad, who's max level in BG1, can still get one shot by an ogre berserker crit, which is disgustingly insane. And that's just the way it is. So, all in all, even though Rasaad I have as RP tier, because you really don't take him unless you're role-playing, he is still viable. And that is something I always want to impress upon people who are playing this game. No matter what you do, no matter how dumb you spec your character, no matter how stupid you put your points in, and no matter who you take, even on the hardest difficulty, in the hardest settings, if you play intelligently, you will succeed and you will do fine. And there's nothing wrong with it. However, for this list, Rasaad is definitely the worst character in the game, bar none. So, that is going to do it up for today, dudes. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If anybody liked the video, don't fucking bother liking or subscribing. God knows when I'm going to upload another video. I'm supposed to be doing another one in a couple minutes, but my throat is currently telling me that is not fucking happening. So thank you, dudes, for watching. I appreciate it. Feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll respond to it within the next 9 months. Maybe. Possibly. Probably not. But I really appreciate you dudes watching. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know in the comments. I don't think I really set up anything up here that is extremely bold, such as saying that Rasaad is dog shit. I don't think there's really anybody out there who's like, what are you talking about, Dev? I gotta go write an angry letter on Reddit right now. I can't believe this man said that. You're bolder than he is. But thanks again for watching, dudes. Really appreciate it. I hope each and every one of you has an awesome day and an awesome night. And remember, my friends, that I love you and God loves you and you can do anything in life, dudes. And don't you ever forget it. We'll see you next time, dudes. Peace out. Take it easy.